Chapter 1536. Su Gong was an evolver of the Great Tang territory and also supported Li Feng in inheriting the throne. In ancient Huaxia, he was similar to an advisor to a prince. But because Su Gong was Li Feng's senior, his position was higher than that of an advisor. Su Gong had never been absent when Li Feng led the mammoth barbarian soldiers to a military meeting with the Black Sky Cult. Therefore, when Sheiji saw that Su Gong was not present, she could not help but feel puzzled. Li Feng was about to speak when there was a commotion at the back of the camp. Immediately after, two mammoth barbarian soldiers in charge of guarding flew in and knocked over the banquet table, causing wine to splatter everywhere. A middle-aged evolver rushed in. It was Su Gong. His face was slightly pale and there were a few wounds on his body. After rushing in, he shouted, "Friends from the Black Sky Cult, be careful. Li Feng has been replaced by someone else. Quickly capture him and interrogate him." The Black Sky Cult branch leaders were still wondering who Li Feng was. However, Sheiji and Qiu Zhenli quickly reacted. The Li Feng that Su Gong had mentioned in his panic was Xian Feng. The two of them jumped up together, their faces full of vigilance. Qiu Zhenli shouted, "What exactly is going on?" Unexpectedly, when he stood up, Qiu Zhenli felt his legs go soft and his aura energy was not listening to him. He immediately understood. Staring at Li Feng, he shouted angrily, "Good lad, you actually dared to use poison." Sheiji was secretly glad that she did not drink wine and did not eat because she was cautious. However, when Sheiji was circulating her elemental energy, she also felt a trace of abnormality. The circulation speed of her elemental energy was at least 30% sluggish. In order to be safe, Bai Xiaowen tried 3 different methods at the same time. The wine was poisoned, the dishes were poisoned, and even the smoke from the 3 incense sticks that were lit at the side was poisonous. The 2 protectors were poisoned and their strength was greatly reduced. Needless to say, the Black Sky Cult branch leaders who had followed them to the banquet were poisoned. Only 30% of their aura energy was left, and their strength had dropped by a level. Li Feng glanced at Su Gong. "You actually managed to escape. That's really unexpected," Su Gong snorted. After Li Feng returned from welcoming the martial artists from Jianghu, Su Gong had felt that something was wrong with Li Feng's complexion. However, he had not noticed that Li Feng had been controlled by Bai Xiaowen and had become a puppet. Of course, it was Bai Xiaowen's true inner force that had taken effect. Even the Lord had not noticed the problem. When Sheiji and Qiu Zhenli had controlled Lu Sanding and destroyed the Black Sky Cult's plot, the 2 suzerains had not noticed Lu Sanding's abnormality. If it weren't for the 7 points of primordial true inner force, the fact that Lu Sanding had become a puppet would have been exposed long ago. When Li Feng invited the head of the Black Sky sect to the banquet, Su Gong was directly placed under house arrest by the mammoth barbarian soldiers. He was finally convinced that something was wrong. He broke through the obstruction of the giant barbarian soldiers and rushed over. The group of Black Sky Cult leaders all stared at Li Feng. Li Feng took a step back and abruptly took out an item from his bosom and threw it with all his might. There was a thunderous explosion. The sound of heavy footsteps could be heard, accompanied by the sound of battle cries. 200 giant barbarian soldiers rushed in first. A group of huge men tore at each other. Li Feng's tent was torn apart like paper. 100 Jianghu martial artists who were in charge of receiving the giant barbarian soldiers rushed in together. At the same time, not far away, a large flag with the word Lu was raised. Bai Xiaowen brought the other Jianghu martial artists and rushed over. Qiu Zhenli did not ask why. There was no point in asking now. He said sternly, "Kid, you dare to betray the Saint Sect. The Saint Sect will definitely make you wish you were dead." He reached into his bosom and threw out a Qinghua fire arrow. The Qinghua fire arrow exploded in the air. Instantly, the 8 camps of the Black Sky Cult were in an uproar. Thousands of Black Sky Cult members saw this Qinghua fire arrow. After a short moment of hesitation, they rushed towards Li Feng's tent. Li Feng waved his hand and ordered, "Giant barbarian soldiers, destroy them." Under his mental command, the giant barbarian soldiers rushed towards the group of Black Sky Cult leaders. The two closest branch lords were not able to resist for 2 rounds before they were smashed into meat paste by the mace. Kill! The demons of the Black Sky Cult have been poisoned. Killing them will be a great merit. A group of Jianghu martial artists rushed forward while shouting. Everyone liked to fight a battle that went smoothly. Qiu Zhenli slapped his chest and spat out a mouthful of wine with a fishy smell, hitting a Jianghu martial artist who was rushing over. That Jianghu martial artist's face seemed to have been smashed by a hammer. A clear depression could be seen as he staggered backwards. Qiu Zhenli's mouthful of aura qi had spat out quite a bit of poison. He had already recovered 60 to 70% of his strength. He grabbed this unlucky Jianghu martial artist and twisted his head off. With a cold expression, he said, "Ant-like things, I want to see how many of you are not afraid of death." A person's name was like a tree shadow. Qiu Zhenli was known as the human butcher with 1,000 hands. This word human butcher did not come from nowhere. The number of Jianghu clans that he had exterminated was truly innumerable. At least, the Jianghu martial artists present were all intimidated by his aura and did not dare to step forward. Suddenly, a cold laugh could be heard. "Qiu Zhenli, you ran very fast the last time in the sword testing valley. This time, I won't let you escape." Qiu Zhenli and Sheiji looked over at the same time and saw an exceedingly handsome youth riding a giant wolf gliding over. LV Wang. Qiu Zhenli, Sheiji, and many of the Black Sky Cult branch leaders present had all seen LV Wang's drawing. This was attributed to Tangren, the mole and Shangqing school. The group of Jianghu martial artists shouted in unison, "Alliance leader." In comparison, Li Feng's master was not noticed by anyone. When Qiu Zhenli saw Bai Xiaowen, new and old grudges really burst forth. In particular, Bai Xiaowen was quite shameless. He said that Qiu Zhenli's escape from the sword testing valley was due to him alone. It sounded as if Qiu Zhenli was afraid of him. "If not for the fact that there were many Shangqing school elders present, who do you think you are?" "Wait a minute, Shangqing school elders?" Just as this thought flashed through Qiu Zhenli's mind, he suddenly heard loud battle cries from the inner sanctum of Shangqing school. One by one, disciples wearing Shangqing school uniforms closed the mountain protection array and rushed out as if they had gone mad. At the front were 4 suzerain-level masters, the next leader of Shangqing school, Chen Rong, and the remaining 3 Shangqing school elders. A disciple scrambled over to report, "Lord Protector, the masters of Shangqing school are here. We don't have a leader, we can't hold them off." How could they hold them off? The masters of Black Sky Cult were all invited to the banquet by Li Feng, including the 10 branch leaders. They were all poisoned and were tightly surrounded by the Jianghu martial artists led by LV Wang and the giant barbarian soldiers led by Li Feng. Although there were many Black Sky Cult members in the other 7 camps, there were too few leaders and no one to command them. Chapter 1537. The Black Sky Cult secondary camp fell into a chaotic battle. The group of martial artists under Bai Xiaowen ganged up on the poisoned Black Sky Cult leaders, as well as the trusted subordinates they brought with them to the banquet. In the other 7 camps, the thousands of ordinary Black Sky Cult members saw the fireballs and rushed to the secondary camp where Li Feng was to support their leaders. As for the Shangqing Pai's inner sect disciples, under the leadership of the reserve sect leader Chen Rong and the 3 elders, they were also violently attacking the vice camp. It was just that they were momentarily obstructed by the cult members and had not yet joined Bai Xiaowen. Bai Xiaowen sent out the giant barbarian soldiers to block the reinforcements from the other 7 camps. In the narrow area of the secondary camp, the giant barbarian soldiers were not easy to use, so sending them out to block the enemy reinforcements was the best choice. As for Qiu Zhenli and the others, they were poisoned and their strength decreased by a lot. The Butcher and Wrathclaw went forward to block Qiu Zhenli, while the Death Knight, Delifa, and Keats blocked Sheiji. Bai Xiaowen's other summoned creatures attacked from afar and harassed the 2 poison lords. Although they could not take them down immediately, they could delay them for a while. The rest of the Black Sky Cult branch leaders and trusted subordinates were even more affected by the poison. They could not withstand the attacks of the martial artists and were killed one after another. The evolver Su Gong wanted to leave when he saw that the situation was not good, but Bai Xiaowen put a Dao technique imprint on him and ordered Yun Zhongli and the other 6 banner leaders to chase after him. The 6 sect leaders of the 3 mountains and 5 islands chased after him together. Su Gong could not escape even if he had wings. As the branch leaders died one by one, the Black Sky Cult henchmen in the secondary camp finally lost their morale. They ignored Qiu Zhenli and Sheiji's orders and fled. The martial artists of Jianghu were scattered in the chaotic battle. They could not display the power of Bai Xiaowen's command formation and were just randomly attacking. Originally, when Bai Xiaowen was marching, he used the long wind formation to increase his movement and attack speed. However, after the real battle, the martial artists of Jianghu flew around like fleas, catching an enemy who was about to die and beating them up, causing the formation to be messed up. If not for Bai Xiaowen's ruthlessness, creating a spy like Li Feng and shamelessly using poison, he might not have been able to achieve the current victory. 7 Fiends Palm. Qiu Zhenli was enraged. The energy around his body was as red as blood. It circled around him as if it had materialized, forming 7 large blood-colored hands. With a slap, Butcher was sent flying. Angry Claw also let out an awu as it was sent tumbling, its health plummeting. After Qiu Zhenli obtained the space, the 7 malevolent palm imprint swept out. The few pugilistic world cultivators nearby all had their waists pinned down by a scarlet hand. A trace of ruthlessness appeared on Qiu Zhenli's face, and he clenched his right fist. Instantly, the blood-red hands tightened and crushed these martial artists of Jianghu to death. Fresh blood flowed. Sheiji also exploded. She was less poisoned than Qiu Zhenli. Suddenly, her body moved rhythmically like a snake. She swayed with every step and slithered through the crowd like a beautiful snake. Similarly, a few martial artists of Jianghu who were attacking her had their necks twisted silently. Bai Xiaowen's 3 main summon creatures were also within the attack range of this move. Fortunately, kids had the ability to transform into a group of bats. A bunch of small bats flapped their wings and quickly rose into the air, avoiding the attack. Delifa had rich battle experience. It flapped the wings on its back and glided more than 10 meters, avoiding the attack as well. The most unlucky one was the Death Knight. He could only wave his lance to meet the attack head-on. However, the lance only pierced the air. Then, his neck was twisted and broken. His protective spiritual power was of no use, and his health plummeted. It was unknown what spiritual power Sheiji cultivated, but it specialized in breaking protective Qi Jin. The Death Knight's head had been twisted 180 degrees. He dropped his lance and held his head with both hands. Amidst a series of crunching sounds, he twisted his neck back. As the leader of the Bone Clan, this kind of repositioning of the neck was a piece of cake for him. However, his health had dropped by more than half, which also limited his spiritual power. He was basically useless in this battle. The sudden outburst of the 2 lords opened up the situation. They finally gathered together and charged in one direction. The martial artists of Jianghu that they encountered along the way did not dare to stop them. Bai Xiaowen coughed lightly and blocked in front of the 2. At the same time, Bai Xiaowen's summoned creatures, which were his personal troops, quickly gathered around him. Wrath Claw, Butcher, Kits, and so on. They formed a defensive formation. I said, "You can't escape this time, Qiu Zhenli." Bai Xiaowen waved his hand, and the 3 half-HP Terror Knights were shrouded in a cloud of gray fog and quickly merged. When the black fog dissipated, a giant Terror Knight appeared. At the same time, the Queen of Banshees and the Mother of Bloodthorns that was under the control of Darkness Resurrection were also summoned by Bai Xiaowen. These 2 magic-type rare leader-level summon creatures were the trump cards of Death's Visage. The Queen of Banshees transformed into a corrosive black fog, while the Mother of Bloodthorns let out a sharp whistle. Bai Xiaowen took out his Thunderwood sword and slashed at the air. A bolt of lightning struck towards Qiu Zhenli's head. Although this bolt of lightning was not strong, the lightning energy it contained was extremely pure. Qiu Zhenli could faintly feel a trace of a terrifying aura from it. He did not dare to be careless. Withstanding the interference of the Mother of Bloodthorn's whistle, he formed a large blood-red hand and slapped it towards the lightning. With a loud buzzing sound, the lightning energy dissipated. Qiu Zhenli was slightly startled. He laughed and said, "I thought you were powerful. This kid is just for show. Sheiji, help me block these demon puppets. I'll take this kid's head." Bai Xiaowen sighed inwardly. He had learned this lightning strike technique from the undead demon arcane master. It was a watered-down version. Every time he used it, it would at most add 50 points of true inner force. It was really not a powerful technique. Sheiji agreed. She waved her hand and shot out streaks of spirit snake ropes. Each of the ropes was like a living snake, unpredictable. At the same time, they enveloped Kits, Delifa, and the others. Kits and the others, who had seen the Death Knight's miserable state, naturally did not dare to be careless. They were successfully restrained by the spirit snake ropes. Qiu Zhenli flew towards Bai Xiaowen. He put his palms together, and the earth energy in his body circulated rapidly. He shouted, "Lu Wang, if you have the guts, take this." Bai Xiaowen's Eye of Evolution watched this scene closely. He also put his palms together. The true inner force in his body started to automatically simulate the trajectory of Qiu Zhenli's earth energy. What is this kid trying to do now? Qiu Zhenli narrowed his eyes. However, he had experienced hundreds of battles. He was determined and would not be intimidated. Blood-red earth energy surged. Qiu Zhenli roared, "7 evils return to 1." Chapter 1538. Qiu Zhenli suddenly flipped his palms. His left hand drew a circle, and his right hand pushed out with the accumulated strength. 7 blood-red palm prints shot out like the raging tides of the Yangtze River. Wave after wave, the force from the front arrived. Soon, the 7 handprints overlapped and condensed into a giant blood-red palm. The martial artists in the pugilistic world within 30 feet were forcefully pushed away by this raging tide-like force. They were unable to get close at all. The pressure on Bai Xiaowen, who bore the brunt of it, was imaginable. Unexpectedly, Bai Xiaowen did the same under everyone's watchful eyes. He separated his palms. His left hand drew a circle, and his right palm pushed out. The 7 palm prints formed a giant palm. However, the 7 evils returned to 1 palm that Bai Xiaowen used was not blood-red, but blazing white. This was related to the nature of the spiritual power. Seeing the blazing white giant palm print and its terrifying power, Qiu Zhenli's eyes widened. Impossible. The 7 evils palm print is my unique secret technique. Even if someone secretly learned it, they would only be able to learn a little. It would be impossible to use the ultimate move of the 7 evils return to 1. Thinking back to Bai Xiaowen's lightning strike Dao technique, Qiu Zhenli narrowed his eyes. He was certain that Bai Xiaowen was deliberately mystifying and bluffing. Do you think that I, the left guardian of the Black Sky Sect, a powerful figure of the demonic Dao, would be fooled by you? 2 palm prints of different colors collided in the air. For a moment, the surrounding martial artists thought that they were deaf. It was clearly an earth-shattering collision. Even the earth was shaking. Time seemed to have frozen, but why couldn't they hear anything? Rumble. After the 2 giant palm prints collided, a deafening explosion erupted. Blazing white, blood-red, violent energy surged. For a moment, no one could do anything to the other. In the middle of the field, a vertical line was drawn purely by color. Half blazing white, half blood-red. The clear state did not last for long. When the blazing white and blood-red light mixed together, a violent explosion occurred. It was as if a level 12 typhoon had swept through the battlefield. Everyone around, regardless of whether they were martial artists of the pugilistic world or the 2 experts, involuntarily retreated to avoid the aftermath of this collision. Bai Xiaowen's face was pale. He took a deep breath. In that moment, more than 700 points of true core force had been drained. Including the previous loss, he had less than 30% of his true core force. Qiu Zhenli spat out a mouthful of blood, his face as pale as a sheet. Bai Xiaowen could see that Qiu Zhenli's health points had dropped by half, and he was suffering from internal injuries. The remaining health points were also dropping bit by bit. The winner was obvious. The martial artists of the pugilistic world cheers. Hero Lad Hero is invincible. Alliance leaders is his skills. Bai Xiaowen's heart was clear as day. Rather than saying that he had defeated Qiu Zhenli head-on, it would be more accurate to say that he had won with his true origin force and eyes of evolution. Moreover, Qiu Zhenli was poisoned. If he was still full of energy, it was hard to tell who would have won this battle. True core force was indeed very strong. With the analysis of the Eye of Evolution and copy, it was indeed possible to copy the opponent's skills. However, Bai Xiaowen was only level 12, 2 levels lower than Qiu Zhenli. In addition, Bai Xiaowen had never cultivated the 7 fiendish palm before. To cultivate this kind of secret technique, which was at least level 3 to level 4, one would definitely need a lot of hard work. It required both internal and external conditions. The external conditions were very simple. One only needed to learn how to form hand seals and how to exert force. It was almost negligible. The important thing was the internal conditions. The internal conditions mainly referred to the circulation path of spiritual power. Every meridian that it passed through had to be connected. When an evolver was advancing, the main meridian in the body would be connected automatically, just like rivers. However, if one wanted to cultivate a secret technique, it was like irrigating a field. It was not enough to rely on the main meridian of the river. One also needed to unblock the canals and channel the river water into a dense network of canals to successfully irrigate the field. These canals were miniature meridians, also known as branch meridians. By unblocking the large and small branch meridians, the flow of spiritual power would naturally not be sluggish. Bai Xiaowen had not unblocked the branch meridians of the 7 fiendish palm. He was completely relying on the seal plus copy ability of the Eye of Evolution to forcibly perform the skill. This meant that when he performed the skill, he needed to use an extra portion of his true core force as a lubricant to open a temporary canal along the branch meridians that had not been unblocked. It would be the energy flow path for the skill. Because of this, Bai Xiaowen's Eye of Evolution could only copy the sealed skill once. If Bai Xiaowen wanted to perform the skill again, he would not be able to because the canal of the branch meridians had not been truly unblocked. Of course, this principle also allowed Bai Xiaowen to achieve twice the result with half the effort when he truly practiced the seal plus copy skill. After all, he understood the energy flow path and had even forcibly performed the skill before. The speed at which he unblocked the branch meridians was much faster than other beginners. At least he could save time on exploring the branch meridians. However, this was a story for another day. In this battle against Left Guardian Qiu Zhenli, from the spiritual power points that erupted, Bai Xiaowen's spiritual power points were undoubtedly lower. However, because Qiu Zhenli was poisoned, the spiritual power points that erupted were not many either. Bai Xiaowen still had a portion of his spiritual power points that acted as a lubricant. Originally, he could not win against Qiu Zhenli, but the essence of his true core force was stronger than Qiu Zhenli's blood fiend Gang Qi. However, after defeating Qiu Zhenli head-on, Bai Xiaowen's vitality was also greatly damaged. Not only was he left with less than 30% of his true core force, but his chest was also faintly stuffy. It was just that it did not cause any internal injuries. Although the battle between the two of them was vigorous and shocking, in reality, experts of the same level were very wary of such a battle, especially in a chaotic battlefield. Even if one was slightly stronger and injured the opponent, they would not have any strength left. If they encountered an unruly enemy who took advantage of the situation and was killed by a small fry, wouldn't they be sullen to death? Qiu Zhenli had mistakenly thought that Bai Xiaowen's strength was mediocre from the weakened version of the lightning strike Taoist technique. Bai Xiaowen's age was also very deceptive, so he used all his strength to kill Bai Xiaowen. As for Bai Xiaowen, he was just a hothead who did not have a complete understanding of the battle between evolved experts. It just so happened that there was someone on the battlefield who did not follow the rules. Sheiji's figure slithered over like a snake. She flashed 7 times in one step, and the entire battlefield was filled with her delicate snake figure. She easily dodged the obstruction of Bai Xiaowen's summoned creatures, and a jade-like hand silently grabbed Bai Xiaowen's throat. "Stop! You dare!" A hurried female voice sounded, and a golden sword talisman flew through the air, heading straight for Sheiji. Chapter 1539. Bai Xiaowen felt a little numb when Sheiji locked onto him and grabbed him by the throat. He was in a state of semi-exhaustion after a big move. He would not be able to return to normal in a few breaths to fight another lord head-on. Bai Xiaowen felt a chill at the back of his head when he thought about Zhou Wu's miserable state after his neck was broken. Bai Xiaowen had hidden a few ghoul archers, but it was hard to say if they could confuse Sheiji's vision. He also had some other tricks such as substitute puppets and teleportation, so he would not be killed in one hit. However, Bai Xiaowen knew that against a lord-level expert, these little tricks would only delay them for a few seconds. Sheiji's combat expertise was as high as a building. She was also very experienced in combat. When she locked onto Bai Xiaowen's aura, she could follow him like a shadow and not be affected by these little tricks. Was he counting on those martial artists to risk their lives to stop Sheiji? After all, they were not his personal guards. He was thinking too much. At this moment, Sister Qinrong had sent out a sword talisman through the air. Her voice had reached Bai Xiaowen's ears even before she arrived. He endured the slight soreness in his meridians and used a teleportation spell to switch places with a ghoul archer. Teleportation was a level 1 Dao spell. It was equivalent to a level 1 trick in Western magic. Although it was very flexible, it could only be used to switch targets. The key was that the target had to be defenseless. If the target revolved their spiritual power to resist, it would depend on the difference in their strength. If Bai Xiaowen's strength was far superior to his opponent's, he could forcefully switch places. However, this would require a short period of time to suppress the target. In this way, the flexibility of teleportation would be greatly reduced. Sheiji grabbed the ghoul archer's neck with one hand and gently twisted it. The ghoul archer's skull and body were separated. It fell to the ground, its soul flame extinguished, and its skeleton scattered on the ground. At this moment, Qinrong's sword talisman arrived. The golden aura was like an arrow released from a bow. Its power was shocking. It was obvious that Qinrong had attacked in anger. Sheiji's attack did not hit the target. Seeing that the masters of Shangqing School had arrived, she immediately wanted to retreat. Lu Wang, you've gone against the saint multiple times. You're not far from death." Sheiji took a step forward and her shadow filled the entire place. She shuttled past the martial artists of the pugilistic world like a poisonous snake and escaped the encirclement. Qinrong, who had rushed over, was worried about Bai Xiaowen's safety and did not chase after him. Instead, he stayed by Bai Xiaowen's side, held his hand, and asked with concern, "Awang, are you okay?" Bai Xiaowen smiled. "I'm fine." Sheiji escaped, but Qiu Zhenli was powerless to escape. He had just clashed head-on with Bai Xiaowen and was severely injured. A group of pugilistic world martial artists surrounded him from afar. Although they did not dare to rush up and kill Qiu Zhenli directly, it was not a problem for them to support him. At this time, Qiu Zhenli was surrounded by powerful summoned creatures like the Butcher, the Giant Terror Knight, the Queen of Banshees, and the Mother of Bloodthorns. He was already panting and had no strength to resist. His health points were dropping bit by bit. In the end, the skeletal demon arcane master used a long-range thunder strike and destroyed the last bit of Qiu Zhenli's health points. "Qiu Zhenli, you've killed countless people and destroyed countless sections. Now, you're still dreaming of destroying Shangqing School. Have you ever thought that there would be a day when you would admit your guilt and be executed?" Qinrong indeed had the prestige of a headmaster. His words were righteous and he quickly seized the moral high ground. Qiu Zhenli coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He sneered and said, "What joy is there in life? What fear is there in death? Today's defeat is all because I was blind and found a bunch of idiots to be my allies." Li Feng was expressionless. He was now Bai Xiaowen's puppet. Qiu Zhenli then said, "Shangqing School won't be proud for long. When Headmaster returns victorious from his expedition to Penglai Pavilion, he will definitely tear all of you to pieces." After saying this, Qiu Zhenli fell to the ground. The Black Sky Cult's left protector, thousand-armed butcher Qiu Zhenli, had died. No one went up to touch the corpse. Qiu Zhenli had been defeated by Bai Xiaowen in a head-on battle and then killed by Bai Xiaowen's Taoist puppet, which was actually a summon creature. According to the Evolutionary Plane's rules for the distribution of spoils of war, only Bai Xiaowen could obtain Qiu Zhenli's belongings after his death. Bai Xiaowen did not touch the corpse and ruin his image. After all, Chen Rong was still beside him. Moreover, the battle was at a critical moment. "Miss Chen." "No, Headmaster Chen. Now that the enemy has lost their leader, it's the best time to wipe them out. We can't let them escape. We must fight a battle of annihilation." Pan Dekhang and the other two elders heard Bai Xiaowen call Chen Rong Headmaster Chen. Although they frowned slightly, they did not express any objections. Now that the Shangqing School's headmaster had gone crazy and gone missing, Chen Rong had shown extraordinary courage and decisiveness in this battle. In addition, her aptitude was very good, and she had cultivated the Shangqing treasure scroll. Her strength was close to the three elders, and she would definitely surpass them in the future. After concluding all these reasons, Chen Rong would definitely become the headmaster of Shangqing School. The headmaster's inauguration ceremony had not been held, so it was inappropriate to address her as headmaster now. However, the three elders were not stubborn old men and understood the principle of acting according to the urgency of the situation. Chen Rong was originally a little surprised as to why Wang addressed her in such a distant manner. Seeing the three elders' reaction, she came back to her senses and smiled at Bai Xiaowen. Chen Rong turned around and shouted to the three elders and the disciples of Shangqing School, "Everyone, Hero Lu Wang is right. These Black Sky disciples, every one of their hands is stained with blood. Even death can't wipe out their crimes. Moreover, the Black Sky sect leader is still here. If we let these disciples escape, they will once again rely on the Black Sky sect leader and make a comeback in the future. Everyone, don't be soft-hearted. Anyone who resists or escapes from the Black Sky sect, kill them all without mercy." After pausing for a moment, Chen Rong said again, "Elders, please bring people to guard the main roads of the outer sect and set up a formation to block them. We must finish this in one battle." Of course, the three elders wouldn't disagree. They accepted the order and flew off in three different directions with their personal disciples. Bai Xiaowen secretly praised. Not only did Chen Rong completely understand the intention of the battle of annihilation that he spoke of, but she also arranged it in a methodical manner. In this way, the thousands of Black Sky sect disciples, at most 20 to 30%, would escape. The Black Sky sect disciples who were able to go to Shangqing School were the elite forces that the Black Sky sect's 32 branches had accumulated over many years. If they were to be successfully annihilated here, the Black Sky sect would more or less be finished. Chapter 1540. This battle lasted from dusk all the way until dawn of the next day. If it was a normal battle, the Black Sky cult would have lost their leader, and would have dispersed in a short time. It wouldn't have taken this long. After all, it was only a battle of 1,000 people, it was just that the individual strength was very high. But the three elders of the Shangqing School set up a formation at the edge of the Shangqing School's outer door, blocking the Black Sky cult's escape route. The Black Sky cult had no way to retreat, and their will to fight increased by quite a bit, bringing a certain amount of casualties to the Shangqing School and the martial artists of the Jianghu. From this, it could be seen that the ancient Huaxia siege of the Jianghu was reasonable. But the specific analysis of the situation, this battle turned into a battle of annihilation, was considered from a strategic point of view. These Black Sky cult members were not good people, just look at the outer martial artists who slaughtered villages to capture young boys and girls. Even if they escaped this disaster, they would definitely not turn over a new leaf, and would most likely gather together again to revive the Black Sky Cult. Don't forget, the Black Sky Cult's leader was still alive. He even brought a group of experts with him to attack the Penglai Pavilion. Bai Xiaowen commanded the martial artists of the Jianghu, and Chen Rong commanded the Shanqing school disciples, spending most of the night to completely crush the Black Sky Cult members' will to resist, and the latter half of the night was spent searching the mountains to capture people. After one night, the 8 camps of the Black Sky Cult were all destroyed, more than half of the 1,000 cult members died, and more than 300 people were captured alive. There were also about 200 scattered people who were greedy for life and afraid of death, without any courage to fight to the death. Seeing that the situation was not good, they escaped in advance, and before the 3 elders of the Shanqing school could set up a trap, they escaped the outer door of the Shanqing school. Of course, these 200 cult members could not be considered the elites of the Black Sky Cult, and were only the lowest level of the cult members, so even if they escaped, they would not be able to cause much trouble. In the battle at night, Bai Xiaowen did not personally enter the field. However, at this time, it was hard to even find a leader in the Black Sky Cult, a group of dragons without a leader, his summoned creature army, against the normal and elite members of the Black Sky Cult. Their strength was more than enough. Bai Xiaowen silently calculated the direct gains of this battle, which were the spoils of war obtained from killing the enemy. Annihilating over 500 people, capturing over 300 people alive, in total killing over 800 people, the equipment of these 800 Black Sky Sect members, especially their weapons, was a considerable amount of wealth. But the custom of the Aboriginals was that the spoils of war belonged to whoever killed them. Many Jianghu martial artists, after killing the members of the Black Sky Sect, if they saw that their weapons were of superior quality, they would directly take them for themselves. Those weapons that they did not fancy were basically gray quality, and would be casually discarded. After the disciples of the Shanqing school killed their enemies, they would usually look down on the weapons of the Black Sky Cult members, but they would still casually pick them up and wait for the battle to end before handing them over to the school. Therefore, the spoils of war that Bai Xiaowen could directly obtain were actually not that many. In the battle at night, he controlled the summoned creatures, and only killed a few dozen enemies. But the targets that Bai Xiaowen chose to kill were very accurate, all of them were elite level and above, and the weapons and armors that he picked up were all blue quality and above. In the eyes of others, it was Hero Luwang who specifically chose the tough ones to fight, leaving the normal members of the Black Sky Cult to his allies to deal with. This kind of fighting style of taking the lead and not rejecting difficulties was really admirable. The main point was the weapons of the Black Sky Cult leaders, the 10 or so branch leader level experts. All of their weapons were not lower than gold quality. Bai Xiaowen snatched 3 items, the Amei Piercer, Clear Wind Sword and Splashing Wind Blade, all of which were common close combat weapons used by martial artists. The last was the biggest boss killed in this battle, the Black Sky Cult's left protector, a leader level expert, Thousand Hands Butcher Qiuzhenli. After Bai Xiaowen looted the corpse, he obtained 2 pieces of equipment. Deerskin gloves, gold quality, toughness A, spiritual energy amplification by 3 levels. Note, when you attack with a weapon, the spiritual energy amplification is based on the weapon's amplification level, not stacking. This deerskin gloves was only gold equipment, the spiritual energy amplification by 3 levels could barely be seen, but it was a pain in the ass if it did not stack with the weapon's spiritual energy amplification. In other words, it could only be seen when empty-handed. For evolvers who were proficient in fist and palm attacks, this was not bad, but evolvers like that were extremely rare. The only thing worth praising was the A-grade toughness. This attribute was similar to hardness. It was an attribute that countered the weapon's sharpness, and was equivalent to a physical defense ability. A grade toughness was equivalent to a normal gold grade weapon's sharpness level. After wearing it, one could use their bare hands to catch the opponent's weapon. As long as the opponent did not have a divine weapon like the Heavenly Sword or the Dragon Saber, walked into the wrong place, there would not be a tragic situation of half a hand being cut off. There was also a cloak at the back. After peeling it off, it faintly flashed with a dark gold luster. This was a dark gold equipment. Black feather cloak, dark gold quality, toughness A+, spiritual defense level 4. Additional skill, great grasp of spiritual energy, inject spiritual energy into the cloak, and it can transform into illusory hands of spiritual energy, attacking the enemy according to the wearer's will. The number of spiritual energy hands and the attack range are determined by the wearer's strength. It was indeed a dark gold equipment. Its toughness, physical defense, and spiritual defense, magic defense, were quite high, and it had already completed the basic task of being a protective equipment, not to mention the additional skill. Bai Xiaowen was now in urgent need of skills. He could not always rely on the sealing and duplication of the Eye of Evolution to conquer the world. First, it was too passive, and it would be strong when facing strong opponents and weak opponents, similar to Five Flag Tree in a certain hot-blooded manga. Second, the skills duplicated by the Eye of Evolution would consume Bai Xiaowen's true inner force, as a lubricant for temporarily unblocking the flow of spiritual energy, so it was definitely not as good as the skills he had mastered himself, which could unleash 100% of the power and be more precise in controlling it. As for whether the great grasp of spiritual energy was useful, it was still not clear. He would only know after he tried it. Qinrong stood beside him and looked at the wisp of dawn in the east. It's finally over. Shangqing School is safe, Qinrong said softly. Awang, thank you for saving me and everyone. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, this is what I should do. Should do? Does Awang mean that this is the responsibility he should bear? Who else in Shangqing School is worthy of him doing this? Qinrong's cheeks blushed, but she did not lower her head shyly like other girls. Instead, she stared straight at Bai Xiaowen, and there was a hint of joy in her eyes. Bai Xiaowen noticed a slight change in Qinrong's aura, which was a bit strange. Wasn't what I just said the standard answer after receiving a thank you? Is there a problem? Chapter 1541. Bai Xiaowen thought for a full 0.1 seconds, but he could not figure out which of his words had caused Qinrong to blush. He could only conclude that sect leader Chen's self-defeating ability was too strong and terrifying. After the battle ended, the few banner masters who were in charge of chasing and killing Su Gong returned with Su Gong's severed head. The banner masters sent by Bai Xiaowen were all sect leaders of the 3 mountains and 5 islands. Not only did they have the strength of a leader, but they also had rich experience in the pugilistic world. Bai Xiaowen had placed a Taoist technique mark on Su Gong's head. No matter what method he used to escape, the 6 banner masters would catch up to him. He had no way of dispelling the Taoist technique mark on his head, and he was too far away from the spatial node he had cut into. He could not escape, so he died without any suspense. While Bai Xiaowen was praising the 6 banner masters, he also felt a little emotional. It was easier to obtain benefits in the world of evolved humans, but the danger was also much higher. The main reason was that there were no items like the town portal scrolls. If they encountered the native forces, there was really no way out. After that, Bai Xiaowen and the martial artists under his command from the 10 banners were invited to the inner sanctum of Shangqing School as guests. On the way, Bai Xiaowen checked the notification of the spiritual world's rules. B-rank Overlord side mission, besieging Shangqing School completed. Completion rate, 91%. Evaluation, excellent. Do you want to submit it? Completion rate is only 91%. Evaluation, excellent. Bai Xiaowen frowned. He thought that he had already completed this mission well. It seemed that a group of the Black Sky Cult army that besieged Shangqing School had escaped, which resulted in the evaluation not reaching the perfect level. If he could kill the 200 or so Black Sky Cult army soldiers, as well as Sheiji and the other experts, the completion rate should be above 95% and reach the perfect level. Bai Xiaowen felt a little lucky. Fortunately, he had chosen to annihilate them. If he had simply defeated them and caused a large number of Black Sky Cult members to flee to different places, the completion rate of the mission would have dropped to around 80%, and he would have lost the evaluation. It wasn't easy to dig deeper into the completion rate of the side mission and get a high evaluation. Even if Bai Xiaowen was asked to do it again, he might not be able to do it better. After all, there was a limit to human strength. Bai Xiaowen thought about it and decided to submit it without hesitation. The Spirit Realm's precepts prompted, "You've received 510 spirit crystals." Bai Xiaowen curled his lips. The mission reward was 1,000 crystals, and he had achieved 91% of it, but he could only get half of it. The rules of the spiritual realm were really unfair. He wondered how the other evolvers lived. There was nothing he could do about it. The rules of the spiritual realm encouraged the completion of missions with high ratings. The final 5% of the mission's perfect completion rate accounted for 40% of the total spirit crystal reward. If he did not complete the mission with a 95% perfect completion rate, it meant that at least 400 spirit crystals would fly away. Fortunately, he had obtained the light orb of enlightenment after completing the mission. Bai Xiaowen sat on the back of the Wrath Claw. He closed his eyes slightly and sank his consciousness into his mind. He saw the light orb of enlightenment next to the two class-specific books. It was the size of a baby's fist, and its full name was the Lord Level 3B Light Orb of Enlightenment. From its appearance, it seemed to be on par with the Hero Level 5A Light Orb from before. He just didn't know how it would taste when eaten. Bai Xiaowen felt a little comforted and opened his eyes. As reinforcements, Bai Xiaowen and the martial artists under his command had a short rest under the hospitality of the Shanqing school. At the same time, Chen Rong and the three elders of the Shanqing school held a high-level meeting to discuss an important matter. Fortunately, Xiao Rong insisted on fighting this time and defeated the siege of the Black Sky Cult. "Junior brothers, I think Xiao Rong already has enough ability to lead the Shanqing school. I suggest that we immediately hold the school head enthronement ceremony, and Xiao Rong will officially take the position of school head of the Shanqing school." Pan Dekhang looked at the other two elders in the room and said slowly. Zhou Wuji was silent. Elder Yuan Jiang frowned and said, "I'm not questioning Chen Rong's ability, but right now the school head and great elder are not here. The enthronement ceremony needs to be presided over by great elder, and we don't know whether senior brother sect head is alive or dead. What if he comes back one day?" Zhou Wuji nodded slightly. "That makes sense." Pan Dekhang was speechless for a moment. He couldn't say senior brother sect head can't come back, right? Although he felt that it would be very difficult for him to come back, there were some things that couldn't be said directly. Pan Dekhang changed his point of view. "We don't know when senior brother sect head will come back. If he doesn't come back in 3 years, or even 10 years, will our Shanqing school have to wait for 3 or 10 years? Yuan Jiang said, "I have a suggestion. Let Chen Rong take the position of acting school head. In this way, we don't need to go through the enthronement ceremony. We just need to inform the disciples and then send someone to inform the Taoists of all the righteous sections." Zhou Wuji nodded. "I second that." Pan Dekhang frowned. He knew what his two junior brothers were thinking. After all, the acting school head didn't have as much authority as the real school head, and he couldn't have the final say in the sect. In this way, Zhou Wuji and Yuan Jian could still have the right to speak in some important matters of the sect. "Xiao Rong, what do you think?" Pan Dekhang asked. He was worried that Chen Rong would have objections. Chen Rong smiled faintly. "What Martial Uncle Zhou and Martial Uncle Yuan said makes sense. Before Master's whereabouts are found out, I really can't take over the position of school head. I can take the position of acting school head temporarily, but I have a request." "What's your request?" The three elders all looked over. Chen Rong said slowly, "I invite young Master Lu Wang to be a guest elder of Shanqing School." "A guest elder?" Bai Xiaowen subconsciously repeated the words. Chen Rong said with a smile, "Yes. Compared with the real intersect elders, a guest elder's status is just as honorable, and he doesn't need to take on too many responsibilities. When the sect is in danger, a guest elder can freely choose to stay or leave. After a pause, Chen Rong added, Shangqing School hasn't had a guest elder for 70 years. Bai Xiaowen was shocked. He instantly understood that the honorary status of guest elder was Chen Rong's reward for him. Moreover, Chen Rong must have put in a lot of effort to persuade Pan Dekhang and the other two old-fashioned men to let him be a guest elder. I'm really honored. Of course, Bai Xiaowen had no reason to refuse. His original plan was to tie the Shangqing School to the White Phoenix Territory's war chariot. Now that the Shangqing School wanted to tie him to the Shangqing School's war chariot with the status of a guest elder, it would save him a lot of effort. Of course, it was a good thing. From now on, everyone would be in the same boat, looking out for each other, and helping each other. For the poor White Phoenix Territory, there wasn't much help that they could provide to the Shangqing School. Bai Xiaowen was the only one. However, the benefits that the Shangqing School could bring to the White Phoenix Territory were countless. Chapter 1542. After Bai Xiaowen became the guest elder of the Shangqing School, he first enjoyed a wave of benefits. Other than the Shangqing treasures, all the talismans and cultivation techniques of the Shangqing School were open to Bai Xiaowen. However, he could not casually impart them to others. Bai Xiaowen could also apply to enter the Shangqing School's treasure vault and use his sect contribution points to exchange for some spiritual materials that he urgently needed. As the guest elder, Bai Xiaowen would receive a fixed amount of 1,000 sect contribution points every month. The contribution points required for a gold-level spiritual material were about 100 to 500 points, depending on the level of the spiritual material. The contribution points required for a dark gold-level spiritual material were 10 times higher. In other words, Bai Xiaowen could laze around every month and obtain at most 10 gold-level spiritual materials. After accumulating them for a month or two, he could obtain a dark gold-level spiritual material. Of course, with Bai Xiaowen's ability to stir up trouble, he would definitely not rely on this fixed amount of contribution points to live. If he performed meritorious deeds for the Shangqing School, he could obtain additional sect contribution points. Bai Xiaowen suddenly felt that the upgrade of the territory's defense array was just around the corner. In comparison, the talisman skills of the Shangqing School were not very attractive to Bai Xiaowen. It was not that these talisman skills were not important, but if Bai Xiaowen wanted to learn them, there was a better way, and that was through the Eye of Evolution. When the Eye of Evolution analyzed and sealed other people's skills, it had already recorded the skill's circulation route and the technique to use it. Bai Xiaowen only needed to spend a certain amount of time to cultivate and learn it. However, Bai Xiaowen lacked the time to cultivate combat skills. Most of his cultivation time was spent on the occupation manuals. Currently, the cultivation of the occupation manuals was definitely the most important. Increasing his level meant increasing his attributes, body tempering, the upper limit of his true inner force, condensing the ball of light in his dantian, and the upper limit of his true inner force, widening his meridians. He would also be able to directly comprehend the most important command-type skill at the current stage. If it was the level 11 Bai Xiaowen, he would not have the formation skill to block the underworld demon army, let alone defeat Zhou Zhenli head-on. Although Bai Xiaowen lacked combat skills, it was not a problem for him to rely on the Eye of Evolution's copying ability for the time being. This was the reason why he dared to cause trouble in the spiritual realm without learning additional skills. Of course, it was Bai Xiaowen had a clear understanding of himself. The Eye of Evolution's copying the opponent's moves. After all, it was not a normal method of defense. In the next few days, the talisman skills of the Underworld Martial Arts School was the Martial Arts Manual. Of the Shangqing schools of the talisman skill. Huaxia's Taoist skills were the main direction of Bai Xiaowen's cultivation in the future. Because of the Taishu Sutra, this king-level occupation manual did not provide any skills in the early stages and only helped Bai Xiaowen build his foundation. However, it still gave Bai Xiaowen the passive effect of Huaxia's Taoist skill cultivation speed up. Moreover, as a king-level manual, the extent of the buff was definitely very high. In addition, Huaxia's Taoist skills were all-encompassing. It was already an extremely mature system, including damage output, control, and support. Learning this series of skills was enough to conquer the world. Bai Xiaowen mainly read the Talisman Array skill book, which was the specialty of the Shangqing school's talismans. In the past few days, the Shouting Plain was also in turmoil. The news of the new Wulin Alliance master, Lu Wang, leading the underworld martial arts masters to defeat the Black Sky Cult and rescue the Shangqing school was spread all over the world. Almost every martial artist in the underworld would mention this major event when they were exploring the underworld. There was a deep reason for this. After all, the Shangqing school was an immortal sect and was naturally more powerful than the martial artists in the underworld. This time, it was the martial artists in the underworld who saved the Shangqing school. Wasn't this a story worth bragging about? We martial artists who cultivate Gang Qi are not inferior to the orthodox immortal sections. The Shangqing school was indebted to the martial artists in the underworld. At this time, they did not care about the damage to the sect's reputation and allowed these martial artists to brag about it. Shangqing School, Huxin Island. Bai Xiaowen was sitting quietly on Huxin Island, reading a book. With the Taishu Sutra's ability to comprehend Taoist skills, coupled with Bai Xiaowen's own super high comprehension ability, he read the Shangqing School's Talisman Array Taoist skill books and soon grasped the knack of it. Talisman arrays are indeed the specialty of the Shangqing School. There are all kinds of arrays from enhancing oneself to trapping and injuring the enemy. As the foundation of the Shangqing School's Talisman Dao, the method of drawing talismans in the air is still worth learning. Drawing talismans in the air together with a talisman array can set up a small array in a short time and take the initiative. If the talisman is prepared in advance, the array can be set up in an instant. Bai Xiaowen put down the jade scroll in his hand and prepared to return it to the Shangqing School's treasure house. "Awang, have you gotten used to living here these past few days?" Qinrong's voice rang out. Bai Xiaowen looked up and saw the Shangqing School's acting headmaster, Qinrong, walking over the waves and gazing at him with a gentle expression on his face. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, "Pretty good. Thank you for your concern. Why, is there good news?" He saw that the worry between Qinrong's eyebrows had disappeared. He seemed to be in a good mood. Qinrong came to Bai Xiaowen's side and sat side by side with him. Penglai Pavilion has sent an envoy in response to the hero's invitation to suppress the Black Sky Cult together. The righteous forces near the East Sea have also responded. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, "The Black Sky Cult's surprise attack on Penglai Pavilion, how was the battle?" Qinrong said, "Penglai Pavilion was caught off guard at the beginning. The Black Sky Cult's 12 islands were destroyed consecutively and suffered heavy losses. Fortunately, the experts of Penglai Pavilion stayed on the main island and worked together to defend the main island of Penglai. They were not annihilated by the Black Sky Cult." After pausing for a moment, Qinrong smiled and said, "Someone in the Penglai Pavilion's envoy group has been asking if we forged the news of Penglai Pavilion rescuing the Shangqing School." Bai Xiaowen shook his head slightly. "This person is not very tactful." Qinrong nodded. "It's a young man. He's probably a disciple of some big shot in Penglai Pavilion. The other members of the Penglai Pavilion's envoy group have already persuaded him to go back. Only young people who had not experienced the dangers of the Jianghu and had not been beaten by society would be so insistent on distinguishing right from wrong. Not to mention that it was impossible for the Shangqing School to admit it. Even if they did, so what? Now that Penglai Pavilion's vitality had been greatly damaged and was in imminent danger, they had come to ask the Shangqing School, the big brother of the righteous path, for help. They were in a weak position. In such a position, to still pursue the responsibility of the Shangqing School was simply a rash person. Bai Xiaowen and Qinrong did not have much shame about dragging Penglai Pavilion into the water. Perhaps Qinrong had some, but after Bai Xiaowen's explanation, it had completely faded away. Chapter 1543. Shangqing School usually took care of Penglai Pavilion and the other righteous sects, but when Shangqing School needed help the most, these sects all chose to seclude themselves. If seclusion could really protect them, this move could at most be said to be a little heartless. But in reality, this was not protecting themselves, it was the act of an ostrich hiding its head in the sand. After Black Sky Cult destroyed Shangqing School and greatly increased their strength, they could easily destroy Penghai Pavilion and the other righteous sections. From a rational point of view, Bai Xiaowen only helped Penghai Pavilion to understand the situation, and walked on the right path to jointly fight against the enemy. Of course, Penghai Pavilion would not thank him, and secretly wished that he would die on the spot. Bai Xiaowen asked, "Where's Black Sky Cult leader now?" "Qinrong, he has already left Penghai Pavilion's main island. His exact whereabouts are unknown." After Black Sky Cult leader heard the news of the failure to besiege Shangqing School and Qiu Zhenli's death, of course he would not continue to target Penghai Pavilion. Following the annihilation of Black Sky Cult's large number of elite cult members, and the betrayal of their allied forces, the offensive and defensive positions of Black Sky Cult and the righteous sects had already changed. Bai Xiaowen said, Black Sky Cult leader might have returned to his old nest. Qinrong deeply agreed, now is the best time to invite our comrades, and pursue the victory. As long as we destroy Black Sky Cult, we will be able to settle this once and for all. Bai Xiaowen immediately received a notification. Epic Side Mission, Destruction of Black Sky, activated. Mission Objective, Destroy Black Sky Cult. Mission Difficulty, C+. Mission Time Limit, None, equivalent to the remaining time you can stay in Xiaowei Plain. Mission Reward, 1,500 Spirit Crystals. There was a small line of words behind. Note, the specific criteria for annihilating the Black Sky Cult include, kill all of the Black Sky Cult's suzerain rank and above, including suzerain rank, destroy the Black Sky Cult's main altar, destroy more than 2/3 of the Black Sky Cult's branches. Bai Xiaowen felt a slight trace of excitement. Epic Side Mission. This was the first time he encountered it. Epics corresponded to king-level experts. It was obvious that the Lord of Black Sky was a king-level powerhouse. That was why the destruction of Black Sky was an epic-level mission. In terms of the specific difficulty grading, because the Black Sky Cult was now an arrow at the end of its flight, and the cult's vitality was greatly damaged, the mission difficulty was only C+, and the overall reward was only 1,500 spirit crystals. However, an epic quest was an epic quest after all. The light orb of enlightenment that he could obtain at the end would definitely be very powerful. Bai Xiaowen had already used the Lord Level 3B light ball of insight that he had obtained previously. It had pushed the progress of the first chapter of the Art of War forward by a large margin. He could already vaguely feel the opportunity for a breakthrough. If he were to comprehend it again, he would definitely be able to cultivate the first part to the proficient level and advance to level 13. Bai Xiaowen immediately accepted this mission. Ronger, don't worry, I will definitely do my best to help you destroy the Black Sky sect. Qinrong didn't know that he was touched by that word again. He lowered his head in silence for a while before looking up and saying, Wang. I am the acting headmaster of the Shangqing School. I will take over the position of headmaster in the future. Bai Xiaowen nodded, his expression a little puzzled. Qinrong continued, the headmaster of the Shangqing School must become a monk. He is not allowed to marry. Oh. Bai Xiaowen continued to nod. Qinrong sighed, I may not be able to give you a status. Bai Xiaowen was instantly shocked. You, give me a status? Great sect leader Qin, did you make a mistake? Or did I get the era wrong? During the Song dynasty, it was actually not a feudal patriarchal society, but a primitive matriarchal society? Also, when did I say that I wanted to marry you? Qinrong looked at Bai Xiaowen's dazed expression and said with some pity, Wang, my heart has always been with you. If you care more about a status. Bai Xiaowen hurriedly waved his hands, I don't mind. No, He didn't know where to start. Qinrong laughed, it's good that you don't mind. Although we don't have a status of husband and wife, we can have. Well, in short, I learned from my master. Although he never married, he had several lovers. No, this misunderstanding was getting deeper. Bai Xiaowen wouldn't play dumb about this kind of thing. He said decisively, Ronger, I already have someone I like. Chenrong was stunned for a while before saying, is it, the Western region woman from the last Changqing ceremony? Bai Xiaowen thought about it and nodded in acknowledgement. This news was obviously a big blow to Chenrong. She stood in front of Bai Xiaowen in a daze. For a moment, her thoughts were like a tide, and she didn't know what to say. Amidst this awkward atmosphere, there was suddenly a burst of noise. Someone's here? Chenrong abruptly changed the topic. Strange, I clearly ordered that no one is to disturb you without my permission. This island in the middle of the lake was already within the range of the mountains behind the Shanqing school. It was usually quiet and secluded. Since Bai Xiaowen needed to cultivate these days, Chenrong arranged for him to stay here. Bai Xiaowen looked in the direction of the noise and saw several people coming from the lakeside. They were the banner masters under his command. The leader was Yun Zhongli. The others were also the suzerains of the 3 mountains and 5 islands, leader-level experts. These banner masters ignored the gatekeeping disciples' obstruction and clamored to see Alliance leader Lu Wang. Invite them over, Bai Xiaowen said, his voice traveling far away. The gatekeeping disciple agreed and invited the banner masters onto the ferry, which sailed towards the island in the middle of the lake. Banner Master Yun, is there something urgent? Bai Xiaowen asked after the group of people had boarded the island in the middle of the lake. Yun Zhongli and the others seemed very anxious and uneasy. Alliance leader. My family at Changling Mountain has been attacked by the Black Sky cult. Countless servants and disciples of other surnames have been killed or injured, and 41 direct relatives have all been kidnapped by the Black Sky cult. Yun Zhongli said with a sigh, hopping with anxiety. Another banner master beside him said, it's the same for my Immortal Visit Island. My entire family has been kidnapped. Bai Xiaowen looked at the others, is it the same for all of you? The other banner masters all shook their heads. One of them said, we haven't received the news yet, but looking at the Black Sky cult's posture, their next target is very likely to be our families. Everyone is burning with anxiety, so we came to seek an audience with the Alliance leader. Please forgive us, Alliance leader. Bai Xiaowen said, I don't blame you for coming to me after such a thing has happened. There's no need to apologize. Chenrong said, strange, the Black Sky cult has already been defeated and fled. Right now, they're probably still gathering their defeated troops. How can they still kidnap your families? The timing doesn't match. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, it shouldn't be the doing of the defeated Black Sky cult from the previous battle. Then who could it be? Chenrong asked doubtfully. Iron Blood Cliff. Bai Xiaowen said, I think it should be the Black Sky cult's holy son Li Yan, Special Envoy Li Chun, and the others I encountered at Iron Blood Cliff. They were unwilling to accept the defeat of Iron Blood Cliff and wanted to use such a despicable method to force Banner Master Yun and the other famous martial artists to submit. Chapter 1544. The truth was just as Bai Xiaowen speculated. After Li Chun and Li Yan failed at Iron Blood Cliff, they did not report the failure to Li Feng, Qiu Zhenli, and the others. They even suppressed the news of LV Wang's appearance. This indirectly caused the Black Sky sect members who besieged Shanqing School to be defenseless against Bai Xiaowen and the martial artists of Jianghu. If the Black Sky sect and Tang Empire cooperated sincerely, the Devil Army besieging Shanqing School would know of LV Wang's appearance and the fact that he organized the martial artists of Jianghu at Iron Blood Cliff. It would not be easy for Bai Xiaowen to control Li Feng and make the giant barbarian soldiers change sides. Not to mention using Li Feng as a puppet to poison Qiu Zhenli, Sheiji, and the branch leaders of the Black Sky sect. Although Bai Xiaowen was confident that the outcome of the war would not change, the losses on his side would increase by at least 30%, which would further affect the execution of the follow-up plan. Li Chun and Li Yan, of course, did not purposely make things easier for Bai Xiaowen. They just did not expect such serious consequences. They were still working hard on the recruitment mission that was previously assigned to them. Kidnapping the families of the 6 lords of the 2 mountains and 4 islands and forcing them to submit was their plan. According to the thoughts of Li Chun and the others, the Black Sky Demon army that besieged the Shangqing sect was a powerful deterrent. If they kidnapped the families of the 6 clan leaders, relying on the deterrence of their superior military strength, it was very possible to force the 6 clan leaders to submit. Then, with the help of the 6 lords' reputation in Jianghu, they could rope in the martial artists of Jianghu from other forces. The recruitment mission would definitely be completed and would take at most 2 months. Unfortunately, Bai Xiaowen did not give them such a long time. Now, the 6 sect masters, including Yin Zhongli and the other 2 sect masters whose families were kidnapped, would not yield to Li Chun and Li Yin. This was because the offensive and defensive positions had changed. The Righteous Path Alliance led by the Shangqing sect was powerful, and the Righteous Path sects such as the Penglai Pavilion had responded one after another. On the other hand, the Black Sky sect's dragon vein was broken and became an arrow at the end of its flight. After listening to Bai Xiaowen's speculation, Yun Zhongli and the others became more anxious. They looked at Bai Xiaowen and waited for him to make a decision. Qinrong suddenly said, "Cloud Mountain Lord, I would like to ask you a question." In front of Qinrong, Yun Zhongli didn't dare to take advantage of his seniority and said respectfully, "Please go ahead, sect leader Chen." Qinrong said, I'm saying if Black Sky sect uses your family to threaten you into submission, to force you to betray the Righteous Path Alliance, will you submit?" Yun Zhongli remained silent for a while, then said, "Only death awaits." Qinrong looked at Zhao Wuji, the owner of Immortal Visit Island. Island Master Zhao Wuji also expressed the same attitude as Yun Zhongli. Qinrong sighed softly. "I'm not unreasonable. I'm very grateful that the 2 of you are willing to follow Leader Lu to save Shangqing School. However, there are some things that must be made clear in advance, lest the 2 of you make the wrong decision. Now Black Sky sect is weak. Even if we can draw the 2 of you to our side, it can't change the outcome of Black Sky sect's defeat. It will only ruin the reputation of the 2 of you." Although Yin Zhongli and the others felt a little uncomfortable, they also agreed that Qinrong was telling the truth. Even though they were the banner masters under Bai Xiaowen's command, and had a very high reputation in the martial arts world, but if they were to defect to the Black Sky sect, their reputation would definitely plummet. It was impossible for them to incite the martial artists under their command to defect, let alone rope in other martial artists to join them. The final result of defection was that 2 more people would be buried with Black Sky sect. Bai Xiaowen secretly praised Qinrong in his heart. She was really different from ordinary women. Even if Qinrong didn't say these words, Bai Xiaowen would have made them clear, but he would have reminded them in a more tactful way. However, now that Qinrong was the villain, it wouldn't affect the relationship between Bai Xiaowen and his banner masters. Since Qinrong was the villain, Bai Xiaowen naturally took advantage of the situation to play the good guy. "Cloud Mountain Master, Island Master Zhao, you don't have to be too pessimistic. This Lu will find a way to save your families from Black Sky sect." After Bai Xiaowen said this, he received a notification that he had triggered a side mission to save the families of Cloud Mountain and Zhao Mountain. This mission was only an elite side mission with an A-rank difficulty. For ordinary evolvers, they might have to do their best to deal with it, but for Bai Xiaowen, it could only be considered a small mission. Yun Zhongli and Zhao Wuji hurriedly thanked him. Bai Xiaowen then said to the remaining people, "Since Black Sky sect has done such a despicable thing, then your families must be in danger. Why don't we use Shangqing School's message talisman to let your families hide temporarily?" The elites of Black Sky sect's many branches have all been mobilized, and their intelligence abilities have greatly decreased compared to before. It should be very difficult to find the hiding place of your families in a short period of time. Shangqing School's message talisman was based on gold and dark gold grade spiritual materials, and it took a lot of effort to inscribe them. High-grade message talismans made of dark gold grade materials could store a large amount of spiritual energy and fly thousands of miles at extreme speed. Even low-grade talismans made of gold grade materials could fly hundreds of miles. It was too late to send someone to pass on the message now, but the message talisman could reach them in half a day and complete the warning. Qinrong agreed immediately, and then asked, "Alliance Master Lu, how do you plan to save the families of Cloud Mountain and Zhao Mountain? Bai Xiaowen sighed inwardly. Chen Rong had changed the way she addressed him. Originally, she called him Awang, but now it had degenerated into Alliance Master Lu. This was not because she was embarrassed in front of others. In the last battle, when she had rushed over to provide support, she had called him Awang in front of so many people. Bai Xiaowen could understand that Chen Rong definitely minded Bai Xiaowen's sweetheart. That was why she had this feeling of alienation. And this was under the situation where she only knew about Cecilia. If she knew that Bai Xiaowen also had Li Shi and Jin Mi, oh ho, she would probably put Bai Xiaowen into the ranks of scumbags on the spot. Bai Xiaowen was calm. He felt that although he was a scumbag, scumbags had a bottom line, and disdained to use deceitful methods to step on multiple boats. Although Chen Rong was very outstanding, and Bai Xiaowen quite admired her, it was not necessary to have the most intimate relationship, as long as it did not affect the alliance relationship. So many thoughts turned in his mind in an instant, but it did not affect Bai Xiaowen's answer. He smiled and said, I plan to disguise myself and sneak into the Black Sky sect. In addition to finding out where the Cloud Mountain and Zhao Mountain are being held, I also want to find out the location of the old sect leader and great elder from the Black Sky sect's intelligence network. You, sneak into the Black Sky sect? No. It's too dangerous. Chen Rong's first reaction was to object, then her face turned slightly red, and she added, what I mean is, you are now the Alliance Master of Wulin, an important part of the Righteous Alliance. If something happens to you, we will be very passive. Chapter 1545. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, I have some experience in the art of transformation. Other than the Black Sky Sect Master, no one should be able to see through my real body, unless they become suspicious and directly use their elemental energy to investigate. Bai Xiaowen's transformation technique mainly relied on first-level illusion Dao techniques. His mastery of illusion Dao techniques had already reached an advanced level. In addition, he had learned the Wood Incarnation demonic art, and had additional experience in the art of transformation. It was impossible for Bai Xiaowen to change his appearance into another person's appearance. However, he could use his true inner force to change his appearance to a certain extent so that others would not be able to recognize his identity as Lu Wang. This was not a problem. The last time he faced Tangren at the Shangqing school, Tangren couldn't see through Bai Xiaowen's transformation technique at first glance. It was only later when Tangren became suspicious and carefully used his elemental energy to investigate, that he was able to distinguish the real from the fake. Chen Rong had also seen Bai Xiaowen's transformation technique, but she still insisted on opposing, saying, this is still very dangerous, those Black Sky Sect demons who have seen you will definitely remember your elemental energy. No matter how good your disguise is, once you make a move, you will definitely be recognized. Even though Black Sky Sect has just been defeated, there are still many experts in their headquarters. After your identity is exposed, you will definitely be besieged by the demons. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, without entering the tiger's den, how can you catch the tiger cub? Not to mention anything else, for the safety of Cloud Mountain Master and Island Master Zhao's families, I have to make this trip. Cloud, Zhao, and the others were indescribably moved. Even in the Jianghu that valued loyalty, young people like Bai Xiaowen were rarely seen. Seeing that she couldn't persuade Bai Xiaowen, Chen Rong sighed and said, all right then, how do you need us to help you? Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, you will still stay at the Shangqing school, recruit experts from various sects, and form an alliance to suppress Black Sky Sect. I'll sneak into Black Sky's headquarters, and the martial artists from the 10 banners under my command can split up and blend into the cities and taverns nearby. We'll set up a secret signal and wait for reinforcements. Yun Zhongli and the other banner masters cupped their fists and said, we will do our best to ensure the alliance master's safety. After the discussion was settled, Chen Rong took out a message spirit talisman. After asking the banner masters one by one, he sent out the spirit talisman to warn their families. Bai Xiaowen then discussed with his banner masters how they were going to meet up, as well as some secret signals. The specifics were needless to say. After agreeing on the secret signal, the several banner masters took their leave, leading their respective groups of martial artists to leave the Shangqing sect first. On the island in the middle of the lake, only Bai Xiaowen and Chen Rong remained. Bai Xiaowen cupped his hands and said, "Sect leader Chen, saving people is like putting out a fire. I'll go now. If there's any emergency, contact me through the wooden carving you gave me." Bai Xiaowen had changed the way he addressed Chen Rong after some thought. Since Chen Rong had already changed the way he addressed Bai Xiaowen as Alliance Master Lu, Bai Xiaowen naturally couldn't be so thick-skinned as to call him by his nickname, lest he invite a snub. Chen Rong obviously hadn't accepted the news that Bai Xiaowen already had someone he liked. He lowered his head and was silent for a while before saying, "Go. Be careful." Bai Xiaowen smiled, cupped his hands again, and stepped onto the ferry. True inner force circulated under his feet, and the ferry moved without oars all the way to the shore of the lake. Bai Xiaowen stood tall and straight like a pine tree at the bow of the ferry. His black feathered cloak flapped in the wind. The man in the ferry looked like an ink painting. Chen Rong stared blankly at Bai Xiaowen's back, but he felt wronged. "Why did you change the way you addressed me so quickly? Do you want to draw a line between us so badly? Using the way you addressed me to remind me that you already have someone you like? If you really didn't want to provoke me, why didn't you tell me earlier?" If Bai Xiaowen could guess Chen Rong's inner thoughts, he would definitely complain about the inequality between men and women. It was clearly Chen Rong who changed the way he addressed him first. The headquarters of the Black Sky Cult was located at Song State's Black Sky Peak. However, Bai Xiaowen didn't rashly rush to the headquarters of Black Sky Peak. He changed his appearance and disguised himself as an ordinary cult member of the Black Sky Cult, one of the hundreds of cult members that escaped after the defeat of the Shanqing school. In line with Bai Xiaowen's judgment, the headquarters of the Black Sky Cult wanted to gather these scattered cult members. Naturally, they arranged for emissaries to act near the various branches. Of course, there were also some code words of the Black Sky Cult. These code words existed in name only for Bai Xiaowen. Through interrogating the captives of the Black Sky Cult, he had already grasped the code words of the Black Sky Cult, and successfully mixed into one of the scattered cult members of the Black Sky Cult. This group of scattered cult members was naturally led by the emissary arranged by the headquarters, who was a leader-ranked powerhouse. This emissary's surname was Du. Bai Xiaowen followed the crowd and called him Lord Du. After a few days of indirect questioning, and eavesdropping on other people's conversations, Bai Xiaowen finally understood the current situation of the remnants of the Black Sky Cult. The leader of the Black Sky Cult had already returned to the headquarters of Black Sky Peak, and dispatched the experts around him to gather the scattered cult members. This Lord Du was one of them. And after gathering the cult members, these emissaries from the headquarters would lead them back to Black Sky Peak. The leader of the Black Sky Cult sent out a gathering order to the various branches, ordering them to give up on the branches and return to the headquarters to await orders. Looks like the leader of the Black Sky Cult should have realized that the Black Sky Cult is about to face a full-scale attack. The alliance of the righteous sects will start from the branches, uprooting the Black Sky Cult, and finally break through the headquarters, completely destroying the Black Sky Cult. Therefore, the leader of the Black Sky Cult had to gather his forces, and rely on the location of the headquarters of Black Sky Peak to resist the alliance of the righteous sections. From this, it looks like Li Yan, Li Chun, and the underworld demon army should have also received the gathering order. They are currently heading in the direction of Black Sky Peak. Bai Xiaowen quietly unfolded the map. Li Chun and the others had recently appeared at Immortal Visit Island, and kidnapped the family of Island Master Zhao Wuji. Li Chun's next target should be Ocean Tomb Island, which was the closest to Immortal Visit Island, among the 2 mountains and 4 islands. However, before he arrived, he would receive the gathering order from the leader of the Black Sky Cult. According to the speed of the underworld demon army under Li Chun's command, and the time it would take to receive the gathering order, Bai Xiaowen made a rough calculation. In the next 2 days, the underworld demon army led by Li Chun and Li Yan, along with the hostages of Yin Zhongli and Zhao Wuji's families, should pass by Tiela Mountain. The biggest error would not exceed 12 hours. After Bai Xiaowen had a rough idea, he took advantage of an opportunity to rest and reorganize in the middle of the journey to quietly slip away. The Black Sky cult was currently weak. Although it had not reached the stage where the monkeys would scatter when the tree fell, the people were still in a state of panic. Deserters like him were actually not rare. When Sir Du of the headquarters found out that another one had run away when he did a head count, he only cursed and said a few harsh words. Chapter 1546. Sanzhou Ancient Road, Tiela Mountain. An army that was emitting black fog and several figures that were shrouded in black robes moved forward in silence. At the back of the black fog army, 60 to 70 captives were tied up with ropes, dragging them forward. The Black Fog Army was the underworld demon army led by Li Chun. There were about 150 people left. The captives were the direct family members of the underworld demon army and the Black Sky sect that they had captured from the Yun and Zhao families. Li Chun was at the front of the army. He looked back at the captives tied up by ropes. "Brother Li, what's wrong? Are you worried?" asked a good-looking young man with a somewhat sinister expression at the side. This youth was protected by several Black Sky sect experts. He was the Black Sky sect's holy son, Lian. Li Chun said, "Don't underestimate these captives. There are many martial arts experts. When they attacked the Yun and Zhao families, if not for the fact that Li Chun's underworld demon army was adept at joint attacks, the result would have been hard to say." Lian smiled, "Brother Li, don't worry. These people have their meridians sealed and can't use their aura chi. They are no different from ordinary people. They can't break free." Li Chun shook his head. "I didn't expect that the Shanqing school could be turned around when we were sure we would win. Li Feng really sided with the enemy? I can't believe it." Lian sighed. Right Enforcer Lord Sheiji and some of the disciples who were lucky enough to escape insist that it was Li Feng who led the giant barbarian army to turn against us and poison the upper echelons of the Holy Church. This was the reason why the Holy Church was defeated and LV Wang's reputation was built. Li Chun was also upset. He cursed Li Feng in his heart. Although Li Chun wanted to set off firecrackers to celebrate Li Feng's defeat, he had been tricked by Li Feng. As an ally of the Black Sky sect, the Great Tang territory had turned against them at the most crucial moment. Li Feng had betrayed them and the giant barbarian army had sided with the enemy. What about him? What about the underworld demon army? In the past few days, Li Chun clearly felt that the Black Sky sect's holy son Li Yan and the other Black Sky sect experts were on guard against him. He had no choice but to ask for help from the territory. Furthermore, the Black Sky cult's line must not collapse, or else the Great Tang territory's long planning would all be for naught. Thinking of this, Li Chun said, "Li Feng must have been under some kind of bewitching spell of the enemy. It was not his intention. Our Great Tang territory shares honor and disgrace with the Holy Church, and we share the same interests. We would never betray our allies on purpose. Lord Holy Son, please put in a good word for me in front of Lord Hierarch." Lian waved his hand and said with a smile, "Well said, well said." However, his fingers were gently rubbing together, appearing very wretched. Li Chun understood and said in a low voice, "This time, I'm willing to give Lord Saint's son 10% of the treasures we looted from the Yun and Zhao families. We'll split it 40-60. What do you think?" Lian rolled his eyes. Li Chun quickly corrected himself. 37. "Lord Saint, you have the priority to pick and take 70% of the spoils." Only then did Lian smile. Brother Li is indeed forthright. However, I have a presumptuous request. Yun Zhongli's granddaughter is truly beautiful, and I'm quite tempted. I wonder if Brother Li can make it convenient and turn a blind eye to it." Li Chun secretly scolded the Holy Son for being lustful, but on the surface, he said with a smile, "It's just a small matter. Once we return to the Black Sky Peak headquarters, Lord Saint's son can enjoy any of the Yun and Zhao family's young ladies." Lian nodded happily. In fact, the order Lian received was to pacify Li Chun and the underworld demon army and bring them back to the Black Sky Peak. From the Black Sky Hierarch's point of view, he did not believe that the Great Tang territory spent so much manpower and resources just to trick him. Falling out with the Great Tang territory now would only do more harm than good. In other words, even if Li Chun did not give Li Yan any benefits, it would not affect the cooperation between the Great Tang territory and the Black Sky Hierarch. However, no one would complain about getting more benefits for free, especially a greedy and lecherous person like Li Yan. The group walked into Tiela Mountain like this. Suddenly, a Black Sky Hierarch expert who was scouting ahead turned back. "Lord Saint, Special Envoy Li Chun, there seems to be something wrong ahead. What's the matter?" Li Yan was in a good mood and pretended to be dignified as he asked. This subordinate is proficient in the aura observation technique and can vaguely feel that there is a killing intent in the valley ahead. However, when I investigated carefully, I did not feel the presence of anyone. The Black Sky Hierarch expert said with a puzzled face. "Is there someone ambushing us?" Li Yan frowned. "We have so many experts in Brother Li's underworld demon army. Even if the left and right guardians came, they would not be able to stop us. Whoever dares to stop us is simply tired of living." Li Chun said, "We still have to be careful. Why don't we ask Lord Saint Sun's guards to ascend the 2 mountain ridges and check if there is an ambush?" Li Yan agreed. Very quickly, the 4 Black Sky Hierarch experts split into 2 groups and rushed up the 2 mountain ridges. Not long after, they heard a hurried whistle. Li Yan's face suddenly changed. "Snake bone whistle. This is a warning, there really is an ambush. My guards are in danger, quickly go help them." Li Chun immediately waved his hand. "Retreat." He did not care about the lives of Li Yan's subordinates. Now that the situation of the enemy was unknown, it was better to be cautious. On the 2 mountain ridges, flags suddenly lit up one after another. Groups of Jianghu martial artists rushed down from the mountain like enraged wild boars. Among them, 2 groups of martial artists blocked the retreat of the Underworld Demon Army in advance, cutting off the Underworld Demon Army and the captives behind. Looking at the flags, it was the Ren flag and the Gui flag. There were also 2 groups of martial artists blocking the front, they were the Jia and Yi flags. Yun Zhongli and Zhao Wuji, the 2 sect leaders, pointed at Li Chun and Li Yan and scolded. "Thieves of Black Sky Hierarch, ignoring the rules of Jianghu, despicable and shameless. Today, we will make you pay with your blood." As they spoke, Yun and Zhao each threw out 2 heads. A total of 4 heads rolled to Li Yan's feet. These were naturally Li Yan's expert guards. When they entered the mountain ridges to investigate, they were unprepared for an ambush and were all killed in a short span of a few seconds. Li Yan felt weak in his heart. Li Chun suddenly waved his hand. "Underworld Demon Army, in formation. Coordination of spiritual power, eh?" The Underworld Demon Army that was emitting black fog once again encountered an unexpected situation. They fell into a state of being suppressed, their spiritual power fluctuating between strong and weak, unable to coordinate at all. Without coordination of spiritual power, the Underworld Demon Army could not use their combined attack techniques. These 150 Underworld Demon Army were not much different from 150 elite creatures now, or rather, they were even weaker than normal elite creatures. Because they were suppressed, whether it was their attributes or spiritual power, they could not fully utilize them. "Lu Wang! It must be Lu Wang, he is here again!" Li Chun shouted in shock. Chapter 1547. Li Chun was traumatized by Bai Xiaowen's attacks. During the last battle at the Iron-Blooded Cliff, the Underworld Demon Army that he commanded failed to coordinate their spiritual power at the last moment. As a result, he had no choice but to sacrifice dozens of Underworld Demon Army soldiers to self-destruct in exchange for space to retreat. Li Chun concluded that he could not believe that LV Wang had the ability to counter the Underworld Demon Army. He could only conclude that LV Wang had some precious anti-demon talisman that suppressed the resonance of the Underworld Demon Army's spiritual power, causing them to be unable to coordinate. But now, the same thing happened again. Li Chun was not stupid. Of course, he could guess that this was Bai Xiaowen's innate ability. Is it a professional skill? Or a battle skill? Or a bloodline ability? Li Chun was in a mess. Last time, he was able to cut his losses and use a small number of underworld demon army soldiers to self-destruct to win the chance to retreat. But now, he was being attacked from both sides. There were enemies on both sides of the mountain ridges supporting him. They had already formed a huge encirclement. Even if he was ruthless enough to send out a portion of the underworld demon army to self-destruct, there was no way out. Under the LV flag, Bai Xiaowen rode on the giant wolf Wrath Claw and appeared on a tall hill. He wore a mask that was as thin as a cicada's wing. This mask was very thin and soft. Even Bai Xiaowen's subtle expressions could be seen through the mask. Relying on the death god's visage's ability to suppress his cultivation level, Bai Xiaowen successfully disrupted the underworld demon army's joint attack. The two banner masters of Banner A and Banner B, Yun Zhongli and Zhao Wuji, really risked their lives. They led the martial artists under their command and charged into the underworld demon army's formation with the arrow formation. Although the arrow formation's effect was reduced because they were not familiar with the drill and the martial artists of the pugilistic world were lax, it was still useful. It was like a throwing spear that pierced into the underworld demon army's formation. The underworld demon army soldiers could only fight for themselves. Soon, the formation was showing signs of falling apart. 3x3 formation. Li Chun reacted as quickly as possible. The underworld demon army soldiers quickly formed groups of 3 and formed a temporary battle team with tacit understanding. The battle power of the 3x3 formation was quickly displayed. A martial artist from the pugilistic world rushed over. His sword turned into 7 spots of cold light, aiming for the vital parts of the underworld demon army soldier's chest. His attack was rather fierce. However, this underworld demon army warrior only took a step forward and protected his head with his shield. At the same time, the two underworld demon army warriors on his left and right stepped forward and slashed with their swords. That martial artist could only withdraw his attack in a hurry. Then, the underworld demon army soldier lowered his head and launched a sudden attack. The sword blade pierced through the protective upstanding chi of the Jianghu martial artist and pierced his abdomen. When the two underworld demon army warriors saw that their opponent was severely injured, they immediately stepped forward and brandished their swords without hesitation, attempting to decapitate this martial artist. The martial artist of Jianghu had a look of fear in his eyes. The teamwork of the underworld demon army was too good. The formation of 3x3 was like a single entity. When the 3 underworld demon army warriors worked together, they were like a 6-armed monster. He was alone. Unless he had overwhelming strength, he would not be a match for them. Fortunately, Bai Xiaowen made his move. He airdropped the butcher at a fixed point and blocked the path of this martial artist. With 2 slashes, 2 wounds appeared on the butcher's body. However, they were not serious. After all, the attributes and spiritual powers of these underworld demon army soldiers were suppressed by the Grim Reaper's countenance. At most, they could only unleash about 70% of their strength. Bai Xiaowen looked at the battlefield. The underworld demon army was indeed well trained. Although they were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, they were able to quickly form a group and reduce the length of the battlefront. The martial artists of Jianghu were used to fighting alone. They did not know how to cooperate at all. In just 2 minutes, more than 20 of them were injured. If it was not for Bai Xiaowen's airdrop, some of them would have died. Indeed. To defeat the underworld demon army, I still have to rely on my personal troops. Bai Xiaowen raised his hand and the Death Knight and 6 Terror Knights appeared at the side of the battlefield. Arrow formation. Army charge. Even though there were only 7 knights, with the addition of the array-breaking effect of the arrow formation and the super armor of the Legion charge, this charge forcefully created the might of an organized cavalry unit. Like a black arrow, it pierced through the formation of more than 100 underworld demon army soldiers. The battlefront that Li Chun had painstakingly reduced was instantly split into 2. The martial artists of Jianghu quickly filled the gap left by the army charge and surrounded more than 100 underworld demon army soldiers. The underworld demon army soldiers who were attacked from both sides were not as strong as before. Now that the battlefront had been stretched, their disadvantage in terms of numbers was completely exposed. Bai Xiaowen slapped the Wrathclaw's neck and drew a strong arc in the air before landing on the battlefield. He took out the 1,000-man slash and joined the battle. After going through 2 rounds of body refinement, Bai Xiaowen's physical attributes had been greatly improved. Even if there were some areas that were lacking, he could use his true core force to make up for it. More importantly, facing the wearer of the Grim Reaper's countenance, the underworld demon army soldiers were affected even more. Bai Xiaowen killed every underworld demon army soldier who blocked his way with 1 slash each. He then pounced on Li Chun and Li Yan. This monster, Li Chun gritted his teeth. As a control-type evolved being, his personal combat strength should be his weakness. How could this LV Wang be able to charge forward like a fierce general? F***CK. This was illogical. Lord Saint, let's work together. As long as we can get rid of LV Wang, we still have a chance to turn the tables. Li Chun pulled out the katana at his waist and said in a low voice. Li Chun's voice seemed to have the power to motivate people. Li Yan's fear was swept away. That's right. We can only fight to the death now. He stretched out his hands and pulled out 2 short swords. His legs kicked the saddle and he flew towards Bai Xiaowen. Brotherly, I will hold him back from the front. You attack his flank. Sigma, degree. In Li Yan's peripheral vision, Li Chun rolled on the ground and nimbly escaped. Xiao. Bai Xiaowen swung his katana and looked at Li Yan in admiration. You have some courage. It seems that the position of Lord Saint was not obtained through the back door. Come on. I would like to see how capable you are. Li Yan's face quickly fell. He could not stop cursing in his heart. LV Wang's first target should be Li Yan. After all, he is the Lord Saint of the Black Sky Sect. In terms of strategic value, he is much higher than me. Li Chun had already escaped from Bai Xiaowen's line of sight. He was secretly planning in his heart. It's too dangerous this time. I will be thankful if I can escape with my life. As for the plan of the territory and the allies of the Black Sky Sect, I don't care if they die. All underworld demon army, self-destruct. Give LV Wang a farewell gift. Li Chun took out a jade talisman and crushed it. If I let you escape, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? Li Chun opened his mouth to say something, but it was too late. Rumble. The soldiers of the underworld demon army began to self-destruct. Amidst the continuous explosions, the mountains collapsed and rocks cracked. Dust billowed and engulfed Li Chun completely. Bai Xiaowen and the martial artists of Jianghu surrounded the explosion site from afar, quietly watching the magnificent fireworks show. Li Chun's aura quickly weakened and then dissipated. After the dust from the explosion dispersed, Bai Xiaowen saw Li Chun's incomplete body in the mess. Li Yan was captured alive. The experts of the Black Sky Sect were all killed, the underworld demon army self-detonated, and Li Chun was blasted to death. In this battle, Li Yan and Li Chun's troops were completely annihilated, and the families of the 2 banner masters, Yun Zhongli and Zhao Wuji, were successfully rescued. Bai Xiaowen quickly received a notification, Rank A Elite Side Mission, Rescue the Hostages completed. Completion rate, 100%. Do you wish to submit? Bai Xiaowen sighed. A 100% completion rate, he did not let down his painstaking planning. After calculating that the enemy would pass through Tiela Mountain, Bai Xiaowen and the banner masters under his command met up and set up an ambush at Tiela Mountain. This Rank A Elite Side mission to rescue the hostages had the objective of defeat Li Yan and his Black Sky Sect members, and rescue the hostages of the Yun and Zhao families. According to Bai Xiaowen's interpretation of the mission, rescuing the hostages of the Yun and Zhao families was only the basic requirement of the mission. Even if all the hostages were rescued, it would at most be an 80% completion rate and a good evaluation. At the same time, Li Yan and his Black Sky Sect members were also important targets of the mission. The formation techniques that Bai Xiaowen focused on learning in Shanqing School were put to use. Right now, he was still unable to draw talismans in the air and instantly form a formation, but setting up a formation talisman in advance and activating the formation at a critical moment was not a problem. The formation setup here was called the Four Symbols Formation, and was the first formation that Bai Xiaowen focused on learning. The Four Symbols Formation was a relatively basic trapping formation. It had the effect of isolating the space inside and outside of the formation, and could restrain escape techniques, escape talismans, and other teleportation abilities and items. By setting up this formation, Bai Xiaowen's intentions were very clear. He wanted to completely annihilate the enemy. As expected, completely annihilating the enemy gave Bai Xiaowen a 100% completion rate. Of course, completely annihilating the enemy had a greater strategic significance. The Black Sky Sect headquarters would not receive any relevant information because of this. Bai Xiaowen and his martial artists did not have to worry too much about the Black Sky Sect's follow-up counterattack, and could calmly retreat. Bai Xiaowen chose to submit the mission, and received 100 spirit crystals, as well as an elite 4A light ball of insight. Yun Zhongli, Zhao Wuji, and the others brought their lost and recovered family members, and hurried over to thank Bai Xiaowen. If there was a reputation system, Bai Xiaowen's reputation in the martial arts world would probably have already broken through the revered level. From the gratitude and admiration in the eyes of Yun, Zhao, and the others, one could see their surging emotions. Bai Xiaowen then received a message talisman from Shanqing School. Qinrong's execution ability was very strong. He had already integrated the first batch of righteous sects' allied forces, and gathered the experts of various sects, and headed north to Tsang Prefecture, and rushed to Black Sky Peak to suppress the Black Sky Sect leader. Of course, in order to guard against the Black Sky Sect leader's tactic of exchanging sects, Qinrong also left behind a group of allied forces experts to stand guard at Shanqing School. If a sect in the alliance of righteous sects was ambushed by the Black Sky Sect, this group of experts would immediately rush over to provide support. Bai Xiaowen and the martial artists under his command only needed to wait for a few days until the allied forces led by Qinrong arrived at Tsang Prefecture, and then joined forces. Bai Xiaowen then ordered the 10 banners under his command to withdraw from Tiela Mountain, and temporarily hibernate in one of the banner master's old lair, Tsang Prefecture's Jingdao sect. This was a rare time to meditate, and Bai Xiaowen used the Elite 4A light ball of insight that he had just obtained, and had not yet warmed up. He had already touched the threshold of a breakthrough, and the Elite 4A light ball of insight he had obtained this time also gave him more than 40 seconds of enlightenment. Bai Xiaowen had a deeper understanding of the first chapter of The Art of War Taigong, and vaguely understood the deepest insights left by the author in the first chapter. Then, he continued to meditate for 2 days and 2 nights, and after consuming more than 20 spirit crystals, Bai Xiaowen finally completely consolidated the insights he had gained this time. The first chapter of The Art of War Taigong had successfully advanced to the proficient level. Chapter 1549. Spiritual Realm Rule Notifications. You have made a breakthrough in the class classic, The Art of War, Part 1. You are currently at the proficient level, Part 1. You have leveled up to level 13. Due to the tempering of your body by the Art of War, your strength and dexterity have increased by 15 points each. Your physique has increased by 10 points. Your spirit has increased by 5 points. Your true inner force has increased by 330 points. Your current true inner force limit is 2041 points. You have learned a new skill, Spiritual Power Coordination. You've already learned the Commander type skill Array Formation, and a new compound formation, Water Mirror Formation. This string of notifications made Bai Xiaowen rather excited, but at the same time, he noticed something different. For example, the increase in his attributes was different from when he had broken through to level 12. Bai Xiaowen remembered very clearly that his strength, dexterity, and physique had increased by 10 points each, and his spirit had increased by 15 points. However, this time, his strength and dexterity, which were his weak points, had increased by 15 points each. His physique had increased by 10 points, which was considered average, and his spirit, which was his strongest point, had only increased by 5 points. Bai Xiaowen pondered for a while, but he could not figure out the reason. It seems that the tempering of my body by the class classic will gradually balance my attributes. However, there was no such trend when I was at level 12. I don't care so much. The increase in my strength and dexterity is also beneficial. It can strengthen my personal combat power. Level 13 was a critical level. It was the limit of a beginner evolver. Level 14 was the next step, and one would be an intermediate evolver. This was also the dividing line between rookies and strong evolvers. Generally speaking, a beginner evolver would need a long time to reach level 13. For example, Li Feng, who had been controlled by Bai Xiaowen, had spent a full year to reach level 12 from level 11. Bai Xiaowen's speed of advancement was not only due to his outstanding comprehension ability, which made him a veritable genius, but also because of the high-level and high-quality enlightenment light orbs that he had obtained when he was stirring up trouble in the spiritual realm. Bai Xiaowen had used the enlightenment light orbs several times, so he had a deep understanding of the differences in quality of the enlightenment light orbs. The elite grade epiphany ball was completely different from the hero grade epiphany ball. Not to mention the lord level light orb of insight, which was determined by the level of the completed side mission and the evolver's ability to cause trouble. It was only the second time that Bai Xiaowen had entered the Shaoxing plane, but he was able to trigger multiple Lord tier and even Epic tier, King tier, side quests. This was the epitome of his ability to cause trouble. Of course, some of it was due to luck. For example, he met Shenrong, a humanoid mission board. However, Bai Xiaowen's high charm and intuition for missions were also crucial. Not every post-human who met Shenrong would be able to gain her trust or even admiration and unlock subsequent quests. As for the Elite 4A Light Orb, it was much stronger than the Elite 3A Light Orb. This was determined by the completion rate of the side mission. It depended on the evolver's ability to dig deep into the mission and solve problems. So far, Bai Xiaowen had achieved a 100% completion rate and a 104% completion rate. This was the reason why he was able to rise from level 12 to level 13 so quickly. Sinking his consciousness into his mind, Bai Xiaowen continued to read Tai Gong's Art of War. Normally, Tai Gong's Art of War should have shown Bai Xiaowen the middle part content. Then, after Bai Xiaowen cultivated the middle part to the beginner level, he would be able to rise to level 14 and become a mid-level evolver. However, when Bai Xiaowen's consciousness browsed, he found that the middle part that should have appeared was still empty. Strange, why isn't the middle part shown? It's blank. How am I going to cultivate? Bai Xiaowen was puzzled. Could it be that he had obtained a fake book? Bai Xiaowen did not want to waste his brain cells if he could not figure out the problem. He turned his attention to another class book. He had only cultivated the Taishu Sutra to the first level. There was still a lot of room for improvement. He did not have to worry about not having enough light orbs of insight. The increase in the upper limit of his true inner force further increased Bai Xiaowen's endurance and explosive power. Now, his true inner force had entered the 2K club. He was qualified to be a level 13 lord. However, he still needed to work harder to become a king-level master. The ability Spiritual Energy Coordination was a knowledge-type ability that Bai Xiaowen had already learned when he was cultivating. He already knew how to control the spiritual energy of his personal guards and direct troops to create a resonance. He could also guide his troops to attack in the same direction at the same time to form a powerful joint attack. However, spiritual energy coordination was not something that could be used by just randomly picking a troop. It required a period of time to practice. There was also the compound formation water mirror formation. It was a combination of the two cornerstone formations, solid wall formation and grand wind formation. Under the water mirror formation, it had the advantages of both formations. It had a certain increase in mobility and a certain increase in defensive spiritual energy. Of course, the value of each increase was not as good as the two cornerstone formations mentioned above. However, the water mirror formation was still a very good formation. It was suitable for when two armies were facing each other. This was because under the water mirror formation, the formation could be changed rapidly. According to the situation on the battlefield, the formation could be changed into either the solid wall formation or the grand wind formation. It could be used to attack or defend. Formation. I won't think about it for now. It takes too long to practice, and the martial artists in the Jianghu are the unruly type. However, I can give spiritual energy coordination a try. Before meeting up with the Immortal Set Coalition army led by Chenrong, I might as well practice it first. The requirements for spiritual energy coordination were actually quite strict. The biggest requirement was that the spiritual energy attributes were similar. The so-called spiritual energy attributes referred to the characteristics of the spiritual energy. For example, the fire essence and the fire element were the fire spiritual energy. The underworld demon army was the Yin spiritual energy, also known as the dark attribute in the Westerners. The Gang Chi that martial artists cultivated was also a type of spiritual energy. Of course, there were differences in attributes. The banner master of the first banner, Yun Zhongli, cultivated Gang Chi of the water and wood attributes. The banner master of the second banner, Zhao Wuji, cultivated Gang Chi of the five elements, and so on. Armies with only one spiritual energy attribute were the most suitable for spiritual energy coordination. However, such armies were unconventional or rare. For example, the underworld demon army of the spirit race, the fire essence army of the elemental race, and so on. Most of the native armies were made up of humanoids. Humanoids cultivated all kinds of spiritual energy, so naturally, there were quite a few differences in attributes. Based on the differences in spiritual energy attributes, Bai Xiaowen regrouped the martial artists of the 10 banners. The Gang Chi that these martial artists cultivated was basically related to the 5 elements. They only needed to be divided according to the attributes of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It was quite simple. After they were divided, Bai Xiaowen named the 5 banners of the 5 elements. Sharp metal, giant wood, flood, raging fire, and thick earth were the names of the new 5 banners. Don't doubt that Bai Xiaowen was able to name them so neatly. He definitely didn't come up with them himself. He was a third-rate writer from the Christian era. Chapter 1550. According to the attributes of their spiritual energy, the new division of the 5-element banners had an equal number of people. Each banner had about 100 people. This was not to say that the 500 martial artists were evenly distributed, but that many of them cultivated stellar qis with multiple attributes, giving Bai Xiaowen room to distribute them evenly. The division was not difficult, but the coordination of spiritual energy was difficult. This was not something that Bai Xiaowen could do alone. Martial artists with multiple attributes had to learn how to control their own stellar qis and embody the characteristics of their respective 5-element banners. At the same time, they had to be able to simultaneously release the same number of crystals of spiritual energy. This was the foundation of coordination of spiritual energy. Then, Bai Xiaowen would guide and control them to complete the coordination of spiritual energy, and they would be qualified to perform a joint attack. After some simple drills, the 5-element banners martial artists could only succeed once or twice out of 10 attempts. For the time being, it could not be used as a regular method. Fortunately, Bai Xiaowen still had nearly 200 giant barbarian soldiers. These giant barbarian soldiers all cultivated Earth attribute battle qi, and their strength was basically balanced. They were a well-trained team. With this foundation, Bai Xiaowen was able to control the giant barbarian soldiers to unleash Earth attribute battle qi joint attacks after a few simple attempts. The joint attack of 200 giant barbarian soldiers was even stronger than the ultimate move of a suzerain of the same level. The problem was that after each attack, there would be a 10-second window of time. Using Li Chun's experience as a reference, Bai Xiaowen divided the giant barbarian soldiers into a front and back team of 100 people each. This way, the front and back teams could take turns to unleash the joint attack and avoid the window of time. Moreover, the joint attack's power did not decrease by much, and it could still compete with the ultimate move of a suzerain of the same level. From this, it can be seen that the increase in power of a joint attack is not proportional to the number of people attacking. After the number of people exceeds 100, I can clearly feel that it is somewhat difficult to guide, and the power is somewhat scattered. Bai Xiaowen silently experienced this. In other words, 100 people was the limit of Bai Xiaowen's current ability to coordinate spiritual energy. After 100 people, if more people were added, the power would increase, but the increase would be very small. Bai Xiaowen's current ability to coordinate spiritual energy should be about the same as the dead Li Chun. Considering that Bai Xiaowen had just been exposed to this ability, there was definitely room for growth and improvement in the future. Looking at the 200 giant barbarian soldiers standing like iron towers, Bai Xiaowen felt a sense of reluctance. An army that was naturally suited for the coordination of spiritual power and joint attacks did not belong to him. Temporary authority was, after all, a temporary authority. If he were to encounter someone with a higher authority in Great Tang, he would definitely suffer a backlash from the mammoth barbarian soldiers. Unfortunately, in the upcoming battle against the Black Sky sect, they could only use the giant barbarian soldiers as cannon fodder to reduce the losses of the 5-element flags. Even though 5-element flags' cooperation was poor and they weren't considered his own troops, they could still be developed. Even if their cooperation was poor, they could still be trained. As long as one's thinking did not decline, there would always be more solutions than difficulties. Alliance Master. The new Deputy Banner Master of the Giant Wood Flag, Ma Donghai, and the new Deputy Banner Master of the Sharp Gold Flag, Wang Tietjiang, had come. Bai Xiaowen tilted his head and glanced at Wang Tietjiang. "How is it?" Wang Tietjiang's face was full of excitement. "That Li brat, after being tormented by our brothers, finally couldn't take it anymore." Bai Xiaowen nodded. "Bring him up." In the Battle of Tiela Mountain, Li Chun was killed by the underworld demon army's self-explosion, and the Black Sky sect's holy son, Li Yan, was captured alive by Bai Xiaowen. Originally, he wanted Li Yan to relent and reveal some information about the Black Sky sect. However, Li Yan, the holy son of the back door, was actually a little arrogant. Not only did he grit his teeth and not say anything, he even threatened Bai Xiaowen and the others, saying that if they offended the Holy Church, they would die sooner or later, and that Father Leader would take revenge for him. Bai Xiaowen wanted to cultivate and did not have the time to waste with him, so he threw Li Yan to Wang Tietjiang and the other veterans. If not for the fact that the peaceful talisman was still controlling Li Feng and indirectly controlling the giant barbarian soldiers, Bai Xiaowen could have directly thrown a bewitching talisman and read Li Yan's memory fragments. But now, the giant barbarian soldiers were much more important than Li Yan. Moreover, the bewitching talisman reading memories was very random. It could only read part of the memory fragments, and might miss out on the information that Bai Xiaowen wanted to know. Wang Tietjiang and the other veterans were indeed ordinary in terms of strength, but their methods of torturing people were very varied. Coupled with the medicine of sick horse Chow Ma Donghai, they were even more powerful. They hated Li Yan deeply, and did not feel the slightest bit of guilt when torturing him. After all, at Iron Blood Cliff, Li Yan wanted to kill all of them and feed them all Corpse King pills and the like to control them. Now, it was an eye for an eye. Soon, Li Yan, who was covered in dust and blood, was carried over. Without waiting for Bai Xiaowen to ask, Li Yan said, Don't torture me. I'll talk. His voice was very weak. Bai Xiaowen was speechless, and looked at Ma Donghai and Wang Tietjiang who were standing calmly at the side. Both of them had normal expressions. Okay, tell us about the information on Black Sky Peak. What secret passages and mechanisms are there? Bai Xiaowen's interrogation was very skillful. After asking a few questions, he would suddenly throw out another one of the previous questions, in order Li Yan not to hesitate and to answer quickly, so as to prevent Li Yan from speaking nonsense and giving them false information. I only know this. I beg you, give me a quick death. Li Yan was really a little pitiful at this time. Bai Xiaowen suddenly asked, Shangqing School's great elder Chenjia is missing, where is he? Li Yan, at that time. Father brought the Holy Church's experts to capture him alive, but they didn't succeed. I heard Father say that Chenjia jumped off Sea-Gazing Cliff. Sea-Gazing Cliff? Ma Donghai and Wang Tietjiang's expressions changed. Bai Xiaowen looked at the two. What's so special about Sea-Gazing Cliff? Ma Donghai said in surprise, Leader, you haven't heard of it? Wang Tietjiang said, Sea-Gazing Cliff is a strange place. It is blocked by sea fog all year round, and it is one of the 3 most dangerous places in the martial arts world. It is said that there were martial arts masters who were not afraid of death who explored it before, but only one escaped in the end. One escaped? Bai Xiaowen repeated. Wang Tietjiang shrugged and said, the one who escaped is also crazy. Ma Donghai sighed. Great Elder Chenjia jumped off Sea-Gazing Cliff. I'm afraid it bodes ill rather than well. Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly and asked Li Yan again, do you know the whereabouts of the original headmaster of Shangqing School? Li Yan shook his head in confusion. Bai Xiaowen judged from Li Yan's expression, breathing changes, and other details that he was likely to be telling the truth. Li Yan had already revealed so much information, so there was no need to lie in the last few sentences. Moreover, the headmaster of Shangqing School was already crazy, so he was not a key figure to turn the situation around. He was only important to the reputation of Shangqing School, so it was not worth Li Yan lying. Chapter 1551. The next day, Bai Xiaowen and the 5 Element Flag's martial artists successfully met up with the Immortal Sect Alliance's first army led by Qinrong. You have already rescued the hostages and destroyed the underworld demon army? Qinrong and the other higher-ups of the Immortal Sect Alliance were all shocked. Qinrong was slightly better. He no longer doubted Bai Xiaowen's abilities. However, the other higher-ups of the Immortal Sect Alliance were mostly the leaders and elders of the orthodox sects like the Penglai Pavilion and the Tianshan sect. They had never seen Bai Xiaowen's abilities with their own eyes. During the battle in the sword-testing valley, Keats was the one who attacked, so it did not count. Originally, the higher-ups of the Immortal Sect Alliance looked down on martial artists who cultivated Gang Qi. But now, they had completely reigned in their contempt. In reality, martial artists who cultivated Gang Qi were not weaker than martial artists who cultivated Essence Force. It was just that they did not have as many tricks up their sleeves. This time, Bai Xiaowen's destruction of the underworld demon army shocked the higher-ups of the Immortal Sect Alliance. Especially when they heard that Bai Xiaowen had captured the Black Sky Sect's holy son, Li Yan, and interrogated him for information about the Black Sky Sect's headquarters. This shocked them even more. After hearing Bai Xiaowen's information, Qinrong did not hesitate. He immediately ordered the Immortal Sect Alliance and the 5 Element Flag's martial artists to march towards Black Sky Peak. At the foot of Black Sky Peak. Demon of the Black Sky Sect, come out and die. Black Sky Sect leader, don't be a coward. Most of the people who were cursing were martial artists from the 5 Element Flags. As for martial artists, most of them respected their status and were not as shameless as martial artists from the 5 Element Flags. At the top of the mountain ahead, black fog rose and formed a huge human face. It's the Black Sky Sect leader. Some of the experts who had seen the Black Sky Sect leader before could recognize the face of the Black Sky Sect leader from the black fog face. They could not help but exclaim. The huge black fog illusion of the Black Sky Sect leader snorted a few times and said, a bunch of hypocrites fishing for fame, come in if you have the guts. I'll wait for you at the Black Sky Palace. Oh, ha ha ha. As the black fog dissipated, the experts of the immortal sects were all somewhat bewildered. Bai Xiaowen and Chen Rong were very calm. Now that I am strong and the enemy is weak, it would be strange if Black Sky Cult did not rely on their geographical advantage to delay. It was just like the time when Shangqing's school relied on the mountain protecting array to survive for such a long time before they had a chance to turn things around. It was meaningless for them to quarrel now. Bai Xiaowen said to Chen Rong in a low voice, "The Black Sky Cult's main altar doesn't have a formation on the same level as the Shangqing School's mountain protecting formation, but there is a Black Sky formation, which is essentially a maze formation. In addition, 40 miles north of Black Sky Peak, there was a secret path that led directly to the back mountain of Black Sky Cult. Why don't we divide our forces into two groups? One group is a feint, and the other group is a surprise attack." The Black Sky Formation and the secret passage were all fraudulent information that Bai Xiaowen had obtained from Li Yan. Chen Rong asked, "How should we divide the troops?" Bai Xiaowen said, "What Black Sky Cult fears the most are the immortal sect experts. Most of their attention should be focused on you guys. Therefore, it is most appropriate for you guys to be the feint. I will bring the 5-element flags and launch a surprise attack from the back mountain through the secret passage. Simply speaking, the 4 of you will delay. I will go and steal from home." Chen Rong frowned. "Just relying on your group of Jianghu martial artists, I'm afraid it will be difficult to succeed." Bai Xiaowen laughed. "Don't forget, I still have 200 giant barbarian soldiers." Chen Rong looked behind Bai Xiaowen at Li Feng, who was wearing a black cloak and had no expression on his dark face. In her heart, she was also shocked by Bai Xiaowen's methods, but she did not feel afraid. She only felt that having such an ally was very reliable. "Then let's do it this way. I will create a strong enough offensive at the front mountain, so that Black Sky Cult will not be able to divert their attention," Chen Rong said. Bai Xiaowen nodded, led the army in a roundabout way, and quietly left. Chen Rong looked at Bai Xiaowen's departing figure, and could not help but send a message with her spiritual sense, shouting, "Wait a minute." Bai Xiaowen's figure slightly paused. Chen Rong bit her lips, and sent another message, "You must be careful, don't force it. On my side, there is also a chance to directly break through Black Sky Cult's maze, and forcefully attack Black Sky Palace." Bai Xiaowen turned back, showed a smiling face, made a gesture of reassurance, and then left. Chen Rong felt her heart beat faster. She took a few deep breaths, and then calmed down. "Head Chen, what should we do now?" An immortal sect expert came to ask. Chen Rong calmed down, and said in a low voice, "This time, our sects have joined forces. If we cannot destroy Black Sky Cult, we will definitely suffer from Black Sky Cult's crazy revenge. Everyone, success or failure depends on this. If Black Sky Cult's leader does not come out, we will directly enter Black Sky Palace, and drag him out." Head Chen is right. Drag Black Sky Cult's leader out, and kill him. Perhaps it was because Chen Rong's words had stirred up these righteous sects. There really was a feeling of hundreds responding to her call. Among them, the experts of Penglai Pavilion were the loudest. "Invite the experts of each sect who understand formations to come over as guides." Chen Rong was not a brute, since she knew there was a maze in front. Of course, not to be trapped was the first priority. After gathering the formation experts of each sect, she personally led the first army of the Immortal Sect Alliance, and stepped into Black Sky Peak. With a wave of ghostly howls, the entire Black Sky Peak was covered in black fog, as if night had descended. The experts of the Immortal Sect Alliance officially began to challenge Black Sky Cult's defensive formation, Black Sky Formation. Bai Xiaowen brought the 5 elements flags and giant barbarian soldiers, taking a detour for tens of miles, and arrived at a cliff north of Black Sky Peak. He led the experts under his command, following the green vines and mountain rocks, slowly sliding down, and finally at the bottom of the cliff, found the secret entrance that Li Yan had mentioned. Stepping into the secret entrance, flapping sounds could be heard, and countless blood-red eyes lit up in the darkness. "Careful, it's vampire bats." The new banner master of the giant wood flag, Yun Zhongli, shouted loudly. The vampire bats that came crashing toward them were all the size of pigeons, with red eyes and sharp teeth. They flapped their wings and pounced toward Bai Xiaowen's group. As expected, there are ferocious beasts and poisonous insects in the secret passage. Bai Xiaowen flicked his hand and shot out a stream of true elemental energy. Raging flames swept out and wrapped around a large group of blood-sucking bats in front of him. Then, the bats were incinerated, and the smell of burnt flesh spread out. Bai Xiaowen sighed inwardly. In the world of evolvers, the Kusanagi sect's ancient martial art, Kusanagi Orochi, was no longer of much use. The main reason was that Bai Xiaowen no longer had a skill bar, and the Kusanagi sword soul no longer had a place to rely on. Bai Xiaowen could not get the boost of the Kusanagi sword soul, and use a secret technique like Kusanagi Orochi. Moreover, Kusanagi Orochi's move itself had a problem. Its appearance was too magnificent, but its power was too scattered, and it was the type of damage that lasted for several seconds. A large amount of true chi was wasted in vain. It was very difficult to make an effective attack against enemies with spirit energy protection, and it could only be used to burn the bats. Chapter 1552. If it was an expert like the left guardian Qiuzhenli, they would naturally be able to see that Bai Xiaowen's move was all bark and no bite. But the Jianghu martial artists of the Five Elements banners, including the banner's leaders, did not have much foresight. They felt that Bai Xiaowen's move was powerful, and they could feel the heat wave from behind. How could they be hit head-on? They all applauded and cheered. After Bai Xiaowen forced back the bat swarm, he immediately called out, "Ma Donghai." Ma Donghai, the deputy leader of the giant wood banner, came out. He took out a porcelain bottle, opened it, and placed his palm on the mouth of the bottle. A strand of Gangqi flowed out. Instantly, a yellow mist surged. The secret passage was filled with a thick medicinal smell. "Hold your breath," Bai Xiaowen ordered. At the same time, he used his true inner force to circulate his qi and enter a state of internal breathing. This yellow mist was the insect repellent concocted by Ma Donghai. It was indeed very effective. Not only did the bat swarm flee, even the poisonous snakes on the ground turned over and curled up weakly. Bai Xiaowen led the Five Elements banners and the giant barbarian soldiers forward along the secret passage. Not long after, the ambush team reached the end of the passage. A few lights could be seen ahead, shining through the vines. Pushing aside the vines at the entrance, Bai Xiaowen walked out of the secret passage. This is the back mountain of the Black Sky sect. Bai Xiaowen saw the black mist in the front mountain. Obviously, Qinrong and the Immortal Sect experts were trying to break through the Black Sky formation. Bai Xiaowen did not believe that the Black Sky cult leader and his subordinates would obediently guard the Black Sky Palace. As the saying goes, what is false is true, and what is true is false. Since the Black Sky cult leader said that he would guard the Black Sky Palace and wait for the righteous experts, then there was a high chance that he would not stay in the palace. Where would he go? Bai Xiaowen felt that if he was the Black Sky sect leader, he would use the advantage of the Black Sky formation to separate the Immortal Sect experts and kill them one by one. Full speed ahead. Don't worry about being discovered by the enemy, Bai Xiaowen ordered in a deep voice. According to the deceptive intelligence obtained from Lian, the main hub that opened and closed the Black Sky Array, including the various traps of the Black Sky Peak, was in the Black Sky Palace. In addition, there was an extremely important matter in the Black Sky Palace that was related to Bai Xiaowen's follow-up plan. He had to confirm it with his own eyes as soon as possible. Stop! What are you guys doing? Enemy attack! A shrill whistle sounded from the back mountain of Black Sky Cult. Instantly, the three gates leading to Black Sky Palace and the back mountain of Black Sky Cult were tightly shut. Bai Xiaowen led the Five Element flags and the giant barbarian soldiers all the way to the first checkpoint, leaving behind dozens of corpses of Black Sky Cult members. Mammoth barbarian soldiers, coordinate your spiritual energy, Bai Xiaowen said as he glanced at the tightly shut gate of the first checkpoint. the 100 giant barbarian soldiers took a step forward. Earth element battle chi surged out from their bodies. Under Bai Xiaowen's control, they quickly completed the spirit energy resonance. Following which, the 100 giant barbarian soldiers swung their spiked clubs forward. Bai Xiaowen's eyes shone brightly as he guided this surging energy to flow together. A giant, earthy yellow mace shadow that was more than 10 meters long smashed towards the gate in front of him. It looked like a gigantic battering ram. The runes carved on the gate lit up one by one, emitting a faint glow as they tried to block this attack. With a loud explosion, the runes on the gate dimmed. The spiked club image formed by the pure battle chi of the 100 giant barbarian soldiers also dissipated. Front, back. Back, front, coordinate your spiritual energy. The front group of giant barbarian soldiers that had just released their combined attack took a step back. Then, the back group of giant barbarian soldiers that were already on standby became the front group. They released their earth element battle chi and swung their spiked clubs forward. Another giant wolf-tooth club shadow smashed towards the gate of the pass. Boom! This time, the runes engraved on the gate exploded one after another. Then, with a loud creak, the gate opened wide. The Jianghu martial artists of the 5 elemental flags were once again shocked by the combined attack of the giant barbarian soldiers. The Jianghu martial artists did not think much of these heavy and cumbersome soldiers. In a one-on-one duel, even the weakest Jianghu martial artist would not be killed by the giant barbarian soldiers. Even if he could not win, he could still escape. As for those powerful rare elite or even commander-level martial artists, they could even toy with the giant barbarian soldiers and kill them. But now, the neat and uniform military formation and the terrifying joint attack released by the coordination of spiritual power made every martial artist in the Jianghu feel fear. This fear was all focused on Bai Xiaowen, who was commanding the giant barbarian soldiers. Alliance leader Lu is too strong. He is already so strong and is so good at commanding. He is a natural-born commander. Bai Xiaowen did not care about the whispers of the 5 elemental flags martial artists and was the first to charge into the pass. The 5 banner lords of the 5 elemental flags hurriedly led their subordinates and followed. Just like that, after breaking through 3 passes in a row and killing a few dozen scattered Black Sky Cult members, Bai Xiaowen's surprise attack force finally encountered organized resistance. Lu Wang, how dare you! The woman shrouded in a black veil shouted harshly. Behind her was a group of Black Sky Sect members. Right, Guardian Sheiji? Long time no see. Bai Xiaowen smiled. I should have killed you at the gate of the Shangqing school. Sheiji's voice did not have the usual gentleness and was filled with coldness. I don't think you showed any mercy, Bai Xiaowen said calmly. I let you escape last time. This time, you won't be so lucky. Qiu Zhenli is waiting for you on the road to the underworld. The leader will be here soon. You are dead meat. Sheiji threatened. There was a commotion in the crowd. The martial artists of the 5 elemental flags all felt fear. After all, that was the leader of the Black Sky Sect. Like the leader of the Shangqing school, he was a king-level master who stood at the top of the entire plane. Bai Xiaowen was not moved. He smiled and said, if the leader of the Black Sky Sect was really coming soon, you wouldn't have said it. Sheiji's breathing slowed slightly. Bai Xiaowen said in a low voice, sharp metal flag, fierce fire flag, arrow formation. Thick earth flag, sturdy wall formation. Giant wood flag, flood water flag, everlasting wind formation. The destruction of the Black Sky Sect is today. After a few days of short training, the 5 element flags had a basic understanding of the 3 great cornerstone formations. After they got into formation, they were ready for battle. Sheiji and the experts under her command looked at the strict formation and felt that they did not know where to start. Sharp metal flag, fierce fire flag, attack. Giant wood flag, flood water flag, support. Giant barbarian soldiers, spiritual energy coordination. Bai Xiaowen suddenly waved his hand. Immediately, 200 martial artists rushed forward. Along with them, a giant mace condensed from fighting energy fell. Chapter 1553. As the gigantic battle chi mace descended, the Black Sky Sect experts behind Sheiji all scattered and retreated. Even Sheiji was no exception. If Sheiji used her full strength, she could block this attack with her Lord-level strength. But Evolver experts would not rashly fight in a situation where they did not have enough confidence, as that would put them in danger. So Sheiji also lightly dodged, moving several meters away, avoiding the center of the attack. As for the powerful aftershock, she could easily dissolve it with a little circulation of her protective spirit energy. With a loud bang, the gigantic battle chi wolf tooth mace left a gigantic crater on the ground, and the original formation of the Black Sky Sect experts also collapsed. The sharp gold flag and the fierce fire flag charged forward in an arrow formation, instantly piercing through the Black Sky Sect experts' formation and splitting it into 3 parts. The Great Earth flag was slightly slower, and it was right behind the sharp metal flag and the scorching fire flag. Enveloped by the white fog, it was like a sturdy iron wall that was ready to support the sharp metal flag and the scorching fire flag at any moment. Mere martial artists of the pugilistic world dare to attack the Holy Church, die. A leader-level Black Sky Sect elder roared angrily, his sword chopping down vertically. Powerful aura energy condensed on the edge of the sword, transforming into a 3-meter-long illusory giant sword, chopping down on the heads of 3 sharp gold flag martial artists. The sword's power was extremely strong, and should be this Black Sky Sect elder's trump card. However, behind the thick earth flag, a small flag was raised, and 3 thick earth flag martial artists took a step forward, standing behind the sharp gold flag martial artists who were being attacked. The white fog spread, and the wall of aura energy of the sturdy wall formation was also activated, enveloping the 3 sharp gold flag martial artists. The Black Sky Sect elder's 3-meter-long aura giant sword chopped down on the wall of aura energy of the sturdy wall formation, but only caused a few ripples, and did not cause any damage. Instead, his own move had been used, and he could not recover for a while. The 3 sharp gold flag martial artists he faced, however, circulated their strongest aura energy at the same time, and launched attacks at him without any care. Chop, chop, chop. 3 slashes in the shape of snowflakes whistled over. The elder of the Black Sky Sect was shocked. He hurriedly raised his index and middle fingers, forming a Vajra seal. His protective aura was activated, as if he was covered with a layer of Vajra barrier. Shio! 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 With a series of explosive sounds, the Black Sky Sect elder's protective aura was shattered. However, the strongest point of the 3 slashes was still embedded in his chest without any signs of slowing down. Hiss! The clothes in front of this Black Sky Sect elder's chest were in tatters, imprinted with a snowflake-shaped 6-petal wound, already receiving light injuries. How is that possible? A few third-rate Jianghu martial artists, I usually kill them like slaughtering chickens or dogs. How could he be injured in just one move? The Black Sky Sect elder's heart was filled with shock and anger. He was a leader-level expert, facing a few elite and normal martial artists. He did not place them in his eyes. But reality gave him a blow to the head. The attack was neutralized by the special effect of the impregnable wall formation. The defense was pierced through by the special effect of the arrow formation. Similar scenes were occurring in the other battle zones. Almost every expert of the Black Sky Sect who had participated in the battle had discovered that the martial artists of the third-rate Jianghu that they had originally disdained and killed, had formed such a strange formation, supporting each other, and actually caused them to retreat step by step. This kind of foundation stone formation coordination, in the art of war, could be considered a very basic controlling technique. Of course, even if it was a basic coordination, for the Jianghu martial artists to perfectly grasp it, to know when to advance and when to retreat, to reach a state where they could advance and retreat as they pleased, in a short period of time, it was still impossible. To have such an effect, it was all because of Bai Xiaowen's multitasking. His spiritual sense spread out into many thoughts, connecting to the body of every three-man small team leader. When to advance and when to retreat, it all depended on Bai Xiaowen to give orders to the small team leaders, and then the small team leaders would use small flags to guide their two companions. Only Bai Xiaowen was capable of such a multitasking method of command. Of course, this was also because the number of troops under his command was relatively small, only 500 in total. Including the giant barbarian soldiers, it was less than 700 people. If it was an army of tens of thousands, it would be impossible to command every three-man small team like this. There would need to be a well-trained army, and also trusted personal troops to convey orders. Sheiji's eyes were cold as she stared at Bai Xiaowen, who was sitting on the back of the Wrath Claw, and slowly adjusted her breathing. It must be Lu Wang who is commanding these Jianghu martial artists. This person is so powerful, to be able to control this mob and suppress so many experts of the sacred sect. We must kill him. As long as we kill him, there will definitely be a flaw in this seemingly intricate formation. Sheiji's breathing had already stabilized. She raised her palms, and Gang Qi burst out from her fingertips, converging into a 3-foot-long light purple Gang Qi arm blade that pulsated unsteadily. This was one of the two ultimate techniques that Sheiji relied on to become famous, Invisible Blade. This pulsating invisible blade specialized in breaking through protective qi, and it was abnormally tricky. The sudden increase in Sheiji's spiritual energy fluctuations naturally aroused Bai Xiaowen's vigilance. Bai Xiaowen's spiritual sense was abnormally sharp. Even on the chaotic battlefield, he could sense that Sheiji's mind was firmly locked onto him. "Protect Her Majesty!" Bai Xiaowen very shamelessly shouted. 3 groups of Great Earth Flag martial artists immediately stepped forward, forming a triangle around Bai Xiaowen to protect him. Sheiji chuckled, lowered her body, and charged forward like a viper. As she approached the Great Earth Flag martial artist's stellar energy wall, Sheiji's body suddenly paused, and then she flashed forward. 7 Sheiji figures suddenly appeared on the battlefield, charging at Bai Xiaowen from 7 different angles. The Great Earth Flag martial artists were stunned. Which one was real? They're all real. Under the observation of Bai Xiaowen's Eye of Evolution, he was astonished to discover that Sheiji's flashes were not real. When the Eye of Evolution swept past the Sheiji charging from each direction, he found that they all had complete meridians of spiritual energy. They were all real. Bai Xiaowen could not figure out the principle behind this, but he felt that it had something to do with a spatial escape technique. In truth, this was another of Sheiji's ultimate techniques. 7 flashes. Invisible Blade and 7 flashes were Sheiji's 2 ultimate techniques. Swish. 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 Before the 9 Great Earth Flag martial artists of Team 3 could react, blood gushed from their necks, and they all collapsed. The Sheiji figures charging from 7 different angles all reeked of blood. Lu Wang, die! Behind Bai Xiaowen, the 7 Sheiji figures suddenly merged into one, and the invisible blade exploded with light as it stabbed at Bai Xiaowen's back. Swish! Like a scalding knife cutting through grease, the invisible blade shattered Bai Xiaowen's protective spiritual energy and stabbed straight into his body. Chapter 1554. That's not right. The moment the invisible blade entered his body, Sheiji felt that something was amiss. It did not feel like she had pierced through flesh and blood. Instead, it felt like she had pierced through a piece of dead wood. Furthermore, LV Wang's protective spiritual energy was much weaker than she had imagined. She had gotten it a little too easily. Pop. With a soft pop, the layer of true inner force that enveloped the Bai Xiaowen on the Wrath Claw's back dissipated like a pop soap bubble, revealing its true appearance. It was a white wooden statue. Demonic art, wood incarnation. Sheiji's heart suddenly turned cold. The invisible blade in her right hand instantly dissipated. She exerted force with the tip of her foot, creating a sonic boom as she tried to escape the crime scene. However, her ankle suddenly tightened. Just as Sheiji had killed Bai Xiaowen, the Wrath Claw had not been idle. It bit at Sheiji's ankle. The Wrath Claw had already reached level 13. Its strength had also increased. This bite was based on its hunting instincts. It was extraordinarily fast and powerful. Fortunately, she had spiritual energy to protect her body. Otherwise, Sheiji's ankle would definitely have been bitten off by the Wrath Claw. But now, Sheiji could not break free. The ultimate skill that she was so proud of, 7 flashes, naturally could not be used. Whoosh! Whoosh! A group of summoned creatures appeared around the Wrath Claw. They attacked Sheiji with a combination of long-range and close-range fighters. Sheiji's reaction was very fast. Her other leg swiftly kicked at the Wrath Claw's neck. At the same time, the invisible blade in her right hand condensed again. With a circle and a slash, she forced all the summoned creatures to retreat. Against the arrows of the ghoul archers and the various hidden weapons from the martial artists of the pugilistic world, Sheiji displayed extremely high agility. Her body was like a willow leaf. She turned and dodged most of the hidden weapons and arrows. As for the few that she could not dodge, she could use her powerful protective spiritual energy to block them. However, the spells of the Bloodthorn Mother, the Banshee Queen, the Skeletal Fiend Arcane Master, and the others weren't so easy to dodge. Under the control of Bai Xiaowen's meditation mastery, the spells all landed precisely on the same spot, scattering Sheiji's protective spiritual energy. Wrath Claw finally bit down. Its sharp teeth sunk into Sheiji's ankle, so deep that the bone could be seen. Following that, the Wrath Claw swung its head and threw Sheiji to the ground, stomping on her with its 2 claws. Sheiji did not care about her sorry state. She rolled twice on the ground and dodged the Wrath Claw's stomp. Then, she launched herself out of the group of summoned creatures at a tricky angle. However, before Sheiji could catch her breath, she was faced with a blazing white, shapeless blade that flickered in and out of existence. Formless blade. Sheiji's heart skipped a beat as she hurriedly circulated her spiritual energy to block it. However, the invisible blade had a powerful penetrative force. Sheiji had just escaped and her ankle was injured. She did not have enough spiritual energy to circulate. As for this invisible blade, its power was comparable to the invisible blade she used with all her might when she was in her peak condition. The blazing white formless blade pierced through Sheiji's protective spiritual energy and penetrated her lower abdomen, which was her vital point, the hub of her spiritual energy meridians. It's you. You have been waiting for this opportunity. Looking at Bai Xiaowen, who was wearing an ordinary martial artist's outfit, Sheiji felt all the strength in her body being sucked out. Bai Xiaowen nodded silently. Bai Xiaowen had purposely left the gap for Sheiji to charge out of the group of summoned creatures. The formless blade skill that had been sealed by the Eye of Evolution finally came in handy. This skill had the effect of restraining protective spiritual energy. It was a very suitable skill for Bai Xiaowen, who relied on the Eye of Evolution to clearly see the enemy's vital points. Of course, the formless blade restraining protective spiritual energy depended on the nature of both parties' spiritual energy. The higher the priority of the spiritual energy, the more effective the formless blade could be. Seeing a beauty die in his hands, Bai Xiaowen did not feel a ripple in his heart. There was no difference between men and women on the battlefield, only the difference between friend and foe. Moreover, Sheiji was a femme fatale. She definitely had a lot of vengeful souls under her hands. In Changqing school, she had personally killed the innocent humble disciple Zhou Wu. She was considered a sharp blade in the hands of the Black Sky Hierarch. Now that she had died at the hands of Bai Xiaowen, it was considered a part of the cycle of reincarnation. Even Bai Xiaowen himself had killed a lot of people, mainly when he was exploring the spiritual realm. This was especially true when he was still unawakened. When he thought that the people in the spiritual realm were all NPCs, he killed people like he was cutting grass. Everything was for his own benefit. If Bai Xiaowen was killed by an enemy one day, he would not have any resentment. This was a part of the cycle of reincarnation. The current Bai Xiaowen could only follow his own heart, the most basic concept of good and evil. He could only decide who should be killed and who should not be killed. This was the only bottom line he could protect. Shaking his head slightly, Bai Xiaowen collected his thoughts. He casually threw Sheiji's corpse into his storage bracelet and then commanded the 5 element flags and the giant barbarian soldiers to fight. Without Sheiji's leadership, the Black Sky Hierarch's experts lost their fighting spirit and fled in defeat. Under the link of Bai Xiaowen's spiritual sense, the giant wood flag and floodwater flag that had always been in charge of maintaining the formation, used the long wind formation to form 2 columns to surround the Black Sky sect experts that were attempting to escape. Only a few lucky Black Sky Hierarch's experts who were good at Qinggong escaped. The rest all followed in Sheiji's footsteps. Bai Xiaowen led his subordinates to break through the last barrier and directly charged towards the Black Sky Palace. Just as Bai Xiaowen expected, the Black Sky Hierarch did not sit in the Black Sky Palace and wait for the enemy to attack like a dungeon boss. Instead, he chose to take the initiative to attack. The Black Sky formation in the front mountain was filled with black fog. It was a good battlefield. The Black Sky Hierarch led a few dozen experts and entered the formation to launch a surprise attack on the experts of the Immortal Sect Alliance. As a king-level expert, the Black Sky Hierarch's first surprise attack yielded good results. He killed 9 experts of the Immortal Sect Alliance. However, the Black Sky Hierarch was not very satisfied. He originally wanted to find the leader of the Immortal Sect Alliance, Chen Rong, who had just taken over the position of headmaster of the Shangqing School. He wanted to kill the leader and completely destroy the morale of the Immortal Sect Alliance. However, the Black Sky formation was constantly in operation. The Black Sky Hierarch could not find Chen Rong's location. It could only be said that whoever encountered him was unlucky. Then, relying on his familiarity with the Black Sky formation, the Black Sky Hierarch temporarily retreated. After a short rest to recover his spiritual energy, he entered the Black Sky formation again. The experts of the Immortal Sect Alliance were not people to be slaughtered. After receiving the news of the Black Sky Hierarch's appearance through spiritual talismans, they immediately changed from their scattered state of exploring the maze formation to gathering and preparing for battle. 4 Lord-level experts and a dozen rare-level leaders joined forces to trap the Black Sky Hierarch and engaged in a fierce battle. In the end, the Black Sky Hierarch forcefully killed a leader-level expert and left. Dang dang dang, the sound of a bell came from the direction of the Black Sky Palace. Chapter 1555. Not good, Black Sky Palace is in trouble. Black Sky Sect leader, who was resting with a group of experts, heard the urgent ringing of the bell and his expression changed. He led the experts of the palace into the Black Sky formation and faced the attack of the Immortal Sect Alliance in order to protect the main altar of Black Sky Palace. If the main altar was lost, it would be useless even if they defeated the Immortal Sect Alliance. Black Sky Sect leader no longer cared about the enemies in the Black Sky formation and rushed back to Black Sky Palace with his subordinates. Ah! With a scream, the last of the Black Sky Sect members fell. Alliance leader, the battlefield has been checked. The demons guarding Black Sky Palace have all been killed, Sharp Gold Banner leader Zhao Wuji said. Just as Alliance leader expected, Black Sky Sect leader is not in the palace. Most of the demons guarding Black Sky Palace are servants and don't have much battle strength, Giant Wood Banner leader Yun Zhongli said. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, this battle was won very easily. Zhao Wuji reminded, just now when we attacked the Black Sky Palace, the demon guarding the palace rang a big bell, it should be a warning bell. Black Sky Sect leader might be back soon. Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly, search Black Sky Palace as soon as possible. Find the Black Sky formation and the other switches, close them and let the experts of the Immortal Sect Alliance in. Zhao Wuji smiled, our brothers have already gone to find them. What about Black Sky Sect leader? He is one of the few experts in the world. Yun Zhongli was worried. Bai Xiaowen said, don't worry, I will send the giant barbarian army to meet them. Giant barbarian army? Zhao Wuji and the other banner leaders were shocked. Even they had to admit that the giant barbarian army was stronger than the 5-element flags in terms of numbers and was more suitable for Bai Xiaowen's path of command. Obstructing Black Sky Sect leader and waiting for reinforcements was the most dangerous mission with the highest casualty rate. However, Bai Xiaowen didn't give this mission to the 5-element flags, but to the giant barbarian army. This was using the casualties of the giant barbarian army in exchange for the survival of the 5-element flags. Is there a problem? Bai Xiaowen looked at the banner masters. No problem. The banner masters lowered their heads and sighed. The alliance master was indeed loyal to his friends. He didn't treat the 5-element flags as cannon fodder. Alliance master. Wang Tietjiang hurried over. Have you found the main hub? Wang Tietjiang shook his head. Our brothers found a strange stone tablet, but we can't tell what it is. A stone tablet? Bai Xiaowen stood up abruptly. Is it more than 3 meters tall and filled with words? Wang Tietjiang rubbed his chin. That's right. Lead the way. Bai Xiaowen was a little excited. The information that Li Yan revealed was indeed true. If this stone tablet is really as miraculous as Li Yan said, then it will be my greatest gain from this crusade against Black Sky Sect. Seeing Bai Xiaowen's excited look, the banner masters of the 5 elements flags were a little surprised, but they still followed him. In a few steps, Bai Xiaowen's group arrived at a forbidden palace. The guards of the forbidden palace had already died on the spot. They had clearly been killed by the 5-element flag's martial practitioners in charge of the search. The doors of the forbidden palace were wide open. Bai Xiaowen stepped into the forbidden palace. He raised his head and saw the simple stone tablet standing in front of him. Inscriptions were carved on all 4 sides of the stone tablet. Bai Xiaowen pressed his hand against the stone tablet. Immediately, a notification came from the laws of the spirit world. You've discovered a manual for a special profession, Origin Martial Sutra. The Origin Martial Sutra is the general outline of the martial path. It is of great value to stellar energy martial practitioners who cultivate various martial paths. The longer they comprehend it, the greater their chances of breaking through. For the same amount of time, stellar energy martial practitioners with higher comprehension abilities can obtain greater benefits. Bai Xiaowen withdrew his hand and smiled. This stone tablet really was the Origin Martial Sutra that Li Yan had spoken of. It was said that the Origin Martial Sutra was discovered by the founder of the Black Sky Sect. The author was unknown, but it was definitely an unimaginable senior. The founder of the Black Sky Sect had relied on this general outline of the martial path to establish the Black Sky Sect. It had nurtured countless experts and prospered to this day. It was worth mentioning that the people of the Black Sky Sect had thought of using methods such as rubbing and carving to make copies of the Origin Martial Sutra. But whether they rubbed or asked skilled craftsmen to carve, the final copy of the tablet had lost its charm and had no effect on comprehension. Therefore, this one and only piece of the Origin Martial Sutra was extremely precious. The headquarters of the Black Sky Sect, the Black Sky Palace, was built at the location of this Origin Martial Sutra. After several hundred years, the members of the Black Sky Sect had already regarded this Origin Martial Sutra as the supreme treasure of the sect. They did not even dare to move it. The Origin Martial Sutra had become one with the ground, and thick layers of moss had even crawled up from the bottom. Bai Xiaowen did not find it strange that the Origin Martial Sutra could not be copied through rubbing or carving. The Origin Martial Sutra was only a name. What was truly valuable was not the text of the tablet itself, but the Tao rhythm left behind by the senior when he carved the tablet. This was just like the Great Void Sutra. After Bai Xiaowen had obtained the true inheritance of the Great Void Sutra, he wanted to recite it to Zhuo Xi and Gu Xian. But the scripture that he recited already did not have the original charm. It was just like Guang Qingzi's poem, the whole body is full of mouths, but it is difficult to achieve the Tao. And martial artists comprehending the Origin Martial Sutra was the process of comprehending the Tao rhythm. They could obtain the teachings of the senior, and no matter what martial arts they cultivated, they could obtain a large advancement. It was just like how evolvers used the light ball of comprehension. Of course, comprehending the Origin Martial Sutra would definitely not have the same outstanding effect as the light ball of comprehension. Perhaps it would take a very long time to comprehend the effect of a low-level light ball of comprehension. The reason for this conjecture was very simple. If the Origin Martial Sutra was as effective as the light ball of comprehension, the Black Sky sect would have dominated the cultivation world for thousands of years. The 5-element banner masters who came with Bai Xiaowen could not help but begin the process of comprehension when they read the tablet inscriptions. They felt as if their realms were showing signs of loosening. Of course, these signs of loosening were just an illusion. How could it be so easy to break through? It would take a long time to comprehend and slowly accumulate comprehension to have a chance of breaking through. Cough, cough. Bai Xiaowen's coughs, which contained true core force, woke everyone up. Everyone, now is not the time to go into seclusion to comprehend, Bai Xiaowen said with a smile. Don't forget that the Black Sky sect master is still here. He's already here. Everyone was shocked and came back to their senses. Alliance leader, this scripture is too hard to come by. It makes people unknowingly addicted to it and unable to extricate themselves, Yun Zhongli said with a sigh. I really want to continue comprehending it, Zhao Wuji said with emotion. Chapter 1556. Bai Xiaowen waved his hand and said, clean the moss at the bottom. See how deep the stone steel is. Leader, you want to? That's right. Bai Xiaowen said with a smile. I want this. Bai Xiaowen waved his hand and summoned creatures to clean the moss at the bottom of the stone steel with their bare hands. Then, they began to dig. The group of 5-element banner martial artists looked at this scene with envy and anticipation. They were envious because this primordial stone steel would most likely belong to leader Luang. In the Evolver plane, the natives divided the spoils of war according to this rule. Whoever put in the most effort would naturally reap the most rewards. They were looking forward to it because they felt that with leader Lu Wang obtaining the primordial stone steel, everyone would have a chance to study it for a long time. Suddenly, the roars of the giant barbarian soldiers could be heard outside Black Sky Palace. Someone reported, not good. Leader Black Sky is coming with a group of experts. Got it. Bai Xiaowen waved his hand and said, I will command the giant barbarian soldiers to block leader Black Sky. Everyone, continue to search for the Black Sky Array and the main hub of the various mechanisms in Black Sky Palace. Once you find it, deactivate the array mechanisms. Yes. The Banner Masters answered loudly. They resisted the temptation of the primordial stone steel and continued to search with their men. Bai Xiaowen left Kits and the other close combat creatures to continue digging the primordial stone steel. He only had Rage Claw and a few long-range summon creatures by his side. He ran to the front of Black Sky Palace and saw that in the plaza below, a group of Black Sky sect experts had already broken through the main gate and were fighting with the giant barbarian soldiers. Although the giant barbarian soldiers had high defense and HP, they were only elites in terms of individual strength. They were no match for the Black Sky sect experts. And the most eye-catching one was undoubtedly leader Black Sky. The Black Sky hierarch was tall and skinny, like a bamboo pole. His eyes shot out divine light like thunder and lightning. Unfortunately, this was during the day. If it was night, perhaps they would shine. Bai Xiaowen's Eye of Evolution scanned him with true inner force and could not help but be shocked. Leader Black Sky was level 15, and his spiritual energy value was 3,200 points. The Black Sky Sect leader was the same as the majority of the Black Sky Sect experts, a martial artist of aura energy. Every movement of his was filled with an irresistible force of energy. Even the tall and large giant barbarian soldiers were like ragdolls in front of him. They were easily sent flying, their tendons broken, their bones broken, and they all fell to the ground. Mammoth barbarian soldiers, assemble. Spiritual energy harmonization, Bai Xiaowen hurriedly ordered, and the giant barbarian soldiers behind him immediately adjusted their positions. Patriarch Black Sky raised his head and noticed Bai Xiaowen. "You are Lu Wang?" The Black Sky Cult Master stopped and said coldly, "How did you know about the secret passage at the back of the mountain?" Bai Xiaowen said in his heart, "Of course it was your good son who told me." However, the Black Sky Hierarch had yet to receive news of Li Yan and Li Chun's annihilation. The main reason was that Bai Xiaowen's annihilation at Tiela Mountain had been flawless. Not a single person had managed to escape, let alone report back to the Black Sky Hierarch. Bai Xiaowen spouted nonsense. "I found it myself by observing the direction of the earth veins." His main purpose was to delay for some time. The Black Sky Hierarch did not believe him. "Nonsense. Your strength is not weak, and you also cultivate the path of governance. These two will definitely take up a lot of energy. You can't possibly have any attainments in the dragon-seeking technique." Bai Xiaowen delayed for as long as he could. "Well, in the pugilistic world, there is no harm in having more skills." The Black Sky Hierarch squinted his eyes and suddenly asked, "Where is Sheiji?" "She is in charge of guarding the Black Sky Palace." "Why would she let you in?" "Tell me." Bai Xiaowen said in his heart, "Sheiji is lying in my storage bracelet." Considering that telling the truth might cause the Black Sky Hierarch to go berserk, Bai Xiaowen made up a small lie. At this crucial moment, Sheiji has suddenly repented and has already forsaken the darkness for the light. The Black Sky Hierarch did not believe him. This was also because they had rushed over from the front of the mountain and did not pass through the back of the mountain. Naturally, they did not see the battlefield where Sheiji had died. Suddenly, 2 or 3 people rushed over from the back of the mountain. All of them were injured and their voices were mournful. "Hierarch, don't listen to his nonsense. Lord Sheiji has already been killed. Not a single word of truth comes out of this kid's mouth." Bai Xiaowen blinked. These people should be the subordinates of Sheiji who had escaped from the battle at the back of the mountain. At the same time, a few 5-element banners martial artists rushed over and reported in a low voice, "Alliance Master, the main hub has been found. We have already shut down all the mechanisms and formations." Rumbling sounds could be heard. Looking in the direction of the front of the mountain, the black fog had already dissipated bit by bit. It was obvious that the Black Sky Formation had already been shut down. The Black Sky Hierarch was instantly enraged and shouted, "Good kid, I have dominated the world. No one has ever dared to make fun of me." Bai Xiaowen hurriedly ordered, "Giant barbarian soldiers, 40 feet ahead." The 100 or so surviving giant barbarian soldiers swung the spiked clubs in their hands at the same time. Fighting chi surged out. An illusory giant spiked club formed purely from combat chi smashed toward the Black Sky Hierarch. Master Black Sky sneered. His body rose from the ground like a giant eagle. He took 2 steps in the air and changed directions, easily dodging the attack. Instead, he approached the formation of the giant barbarian soldiers. With 2 rustling sounds, 2 iron claws shot out from sect leader Black Sky's sleeves. Swoosh! The sound of air being torn rang out continuously. Many thin black lines were scattered among the giant barbarian soldiers at the very front. "What the hell is this?" Bai Xiaowen was slightly shocked. These black threads seemed to contain a terrifying power. Then, with a loud sizzling sound, the black threads suddenly tightened and quickly moved horizontally. The body parts of the giant barbarian soldiers at the very front that were touched by the black threads were easily cut apart like tofu. Every giant barbarian soldier was cut into 7 pieces by 3 or 4 black threads. He blinked. Although the Eye of Evolution had analyzed and sealed this ghost claw, he did not intend to use it. This move was clearly an area of effect attack. The damage of a single point was average. It was not enough to deal with the Black Sky Hierarch. Bai Xiaowen could still rely on the combined attacks of the giant barbarian soldiers. However, with the coordination of spiritual energy, the second combined attack was easily dodged by the Black Sky Hierarch with his unimaginable speed. "You want to hit me with this kind of clumsy move? Dream on." The Black Sky Hierarch's trash talk did not stop. It completely destroyed the elegant demeanor of an expert. However, one had to admit that his trash talk was very effective. It caused people to be impatient and also caused fear. Bai Xiaowen was fine, but the faces of the Five Elements Flag's martial artists beside him all changed. However, he would most likely not be able to complete the epic quest, Dark Sky's Destruction. Also, the 5 elemental flags that he had spent so much effort to raise would most likely become a sacrifice under the wrath of the Dark Sky Hierarch. A group of experts under the Black Sky Hierarch flew past the giant barbarian soldiers, wanting to capture Bai Xiaowen first. By Bai Xiaowen's side, the martial practitioners of the 5 element flags had already gathered. Impregnable wall formation. At Bai Xiaowen's command, the hundreds of martial practitioners of the 5 element flags quickly got into formation. White mist spread out, and a thick wall of stellar energy unfurled, blocking the entrance to the Black Sky Palace. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the stellar energy of the Black Sky Cult martial practitioners bombarded the impregnable wall formation, but they only caused a few ripples. The impregnable wall formation was formed by the combined forces of nearly 500 martial practitioners. Furthermore, Bai Xiaowen, a level 13 lord and a half-king level expert, was also the main force of the formation. Using the words impregnable as a boulder was insufficient to describe the strength of this tortoise shell. The Black Sky Cult experts took turns to attack, but they were unable to do anything to the impregnable wall formation. "Get out of the way, let me do it." The Black Sky Hierarch's sleeves fluttered, and with a tap of his foot, he shot forward. Behind him, the giant barbarian soldiers were already dead. The few that were still alive had their legs cut off, and could not even stand up. They were basically all wiped out. And the Black Sky Hierarch had only taken less than 5 minutes to kill these hundred-some giant barbarian soldiers. At this moment, he was still full of energy, and his stellar energy had only been slightly depleted. The slaughter just now was just a warm-up for him. After all, he was a level 15 king-level expert, and the gap between these level 13 elite soldiers was too great. Facing the impregnable wall of stellar energy, the Black Sky Hierarch took a deep breath and swung his iron claws. Spectre Claw. Thin black threads sliced through the air. Swish. Swish. Within the stellar energy wall, the clothes of the 5 elements banner's martial practitioners standing at the very front were torn, and fresh blood seeped out. The Spectre Claw's thin black threads of stellar energy were extremely condensed and pure. They were actually able to temporarily slice apart the stellar energy wall, and the remaining power could even injure the people within the wall. The 5 elements banner's martial practitioners were slightly restless. The martial practitioners standing at the very front were even more fearful. Bai Xiaowen loudly shouted, "The Black Sky Hierarch has been defeated." He personally attacked, but he still failed to break through our impregnable wall formation. With this shout, Bai Xiaowen used the empathy technique to incite the 5 elements banner's martial practitioners, who had been shaken, to once again become resolute. As for Bai Xiaowen himself, he directly stood at the forefront. Yes, the Alliance leader is right. The Black Sky Hierarch can't do anything to us. If he's really invincible, after slicing apart the stellar energy wall, he should have been able to kill us. He shouldn't have only caused some minor injuries. The 5 elements banner's martial practitioners in the first row looked at their Alliance leader, Lu Wang, who was standing beside them, and regained their courage. The Black Sky Hierarch's gaze was cold. He took another deep breath, and his hands formed a ball. Vigorous stellar energy surged within the ball, gathered, and finally transformed into a palm that he pushed out. A giant palm formed purely from stellar energy blasted out. Rumble. The stellar energy wall shook continuously as if an earthquake had occurred. The 5 elements banner's martial practitioners in the front row were all pale. The weaker ones immediately spat out mouthfuls of blood. The Black Sky Hierarch is so powerful. Bai Xiaowen's figure swayed slightly. Fortunately, the impregnable wall formation spread the pressure of the attack evenly. Otherwise, this palm would have shaken several of them to death. Suppressing the roiling qi and blood in his chest, Bai Xiaowen said in a deep voice, "Don't panic. First team, retreat. Second team, fill in the gaps." The Black Sky Hierarch clearly needed to catch his breath. The palm strike just now had taken a significant toll on him. At the same time, the impregnable wall formation had finished regrouping. The Black Sky Hierarch experts in the back were already panicking. In their hearts, their hierarch was incomparably powerful, yet he couldn't take down a group of third-rate Jianghu martial practitioners. "Hierarch, what should we do? The experts of the righteous path will probably be here soon," a Black Sky Hierarch expert said. "How far are they?" the Black Sky Hierarch asked as he adjusted his breathing. "I can't see anyone for now." The Black Sky Hierarch nodded slightly and said decisively, "Tear down the gate of Black Sky Palace and take away the forbidden steel." The Five Elements Banner's martial practitioners had formed the impregnable wall formation to guard the gate of Black Sky Palace. Before the Black Sky Hierarch experts broke the formation, they couldn't enter, unless they used brute force to destroy the gate and nearby walls. Black Sky Palace was a holy land for the Black Sky Hierarch. Unless it was absolutely necessary, the Black Sky Hierarch didn't want to do this. But now, they had no choice but to tear it down. One could imagine the hatred in the Black Sky Hierarch's heart. Chapter 1558. Why isn't Sister Chenrong here yet? Bai Xiaowen's sensitivity towards time was much stronger than the vague estimation of these Black Sky sect experts. Especially when it came to the closing time of the Black Sky formation, only Bai Xiaowen's side knew. His calculation was even simpler, and the error would not exceed 10 seconds. But now, it had already exceeded Bai Xiaowen's estimate by 3 minutes, and Chenrong and the experts of the Immortal Sect Coalition army had yet to appear. After eliminating the possibility that Chenrong had betrayed his teammates out of love, Bai Xiaowen pretended to think for a moment. Looks like Sister Chenrong also wants to settle this once and for all. That's not bad, it's better than using the origin martial scripture to restrain her. After the Black Sky sect experts received their sect leader's strict orders, they finally let go of their reverence for the Black Sky Palace, and attacked the pillars and walls of the Black Sky Palace, one after another. Dust filled the air, and rocks rustled down. The pillars and walls on both sides of the Black Sky Palace's main gate all collapsed. The sturdy wall formation formed by the 5 element flags was just enough to block the main gate of the Black Sky Palace, but now 2 holes had appeared. The Black Sky sect experts did not care about the 5 element flags martial artists in their tortoiseshell state, and entered from both sides in a single file. As for the Black Sky sect leader, he was still in the same place, staring at Bai Xiaowen, and threatened, "Kid, you can't escape. I'd like to see how long your tortoiseshell can last." The Black Sky sect leader's eyes were sharp, and he had already seen that the person in charge of the sturdy wall formation was Bai Xiaowen. The formation formed by hundreds of martial artists needed Bai Xiaowen as the source of spirit energy to activate. It could hold for a short period of time, but as Bai Xiaowen's true inner force was exhausted, the formation would collapse on its own. The Black Sky sect leader did not remain idle, and the iron claws in his hands continuously clawed at the sturdy wall formation's qi wall, maintaining the pressure on Bai Xiaowen. He was using his own gang qi in exchange for Bai Xiaowen's true inner force. In terms of spiritual power, the Black Sky Hierarch had the upper hand. After all, he was a genuine Regent-tier powerhouse at level 15. On the other hand, Bai Xiaowen was a half-assed Regent-tier powerhouse who was only level 13. Fortunately, with the assistance of the several hundred martial artists in the impregnable wall formation, Bai Xiaowen only needed to guide the wall of gang qi to resist the pressure from Cult Master Black Sky. The true inner force points he had to pay were much lower than the gang qi points Cult Master Black Sky had to spend, so he could just barely maintain the formation. Hierarch Black Sky appeared to be very patient. However, his patience was soon broken by a series of shouts. "Sect leader! Bad news! The gates of the Forbidden Palace have been opened." Sect leader. The forbidden monument is gone. The Black Sky Patriarch's expression darkened as he stared at Bai Xiaowen and said, "You know about the forbidden boulder? You know about the core of an array formation? You even know about the existence of the secret passage. Is my son with you?" Bai Xiaowen nodded calmly. "You dug out the forbidden monument as well?" The Black Sky Hierarch said coldly. "Lu Wang, how dare you? Aren't you afraid that the Holy Church will fight to the death with you?" Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, "Hierarch Black Sky, since you're working with the Tang dynasty, you should know about my origins." "Oh, from your expression, it seems like the Tang dynasty's allies didn't tell you? No wonder you're threatening me like this." "What do you mean?" the Black Sky Hierarch asked. Before Bai Xiaowen could speak, a notification from the spiritual realm's law sounded. "Please note that you can only reveal your true identity to the natives of the evolutionary plane. If you're a lord, you can reveal information about your territory. Apart from that, you can't mention the identities of other evolvers or the territories of other evolvers to the natives. Otherwise, you'll be punished for maliciously leaking information." Bai Xiaowen narrowed his eyes and decided not to tell the Black Sky Hierarch the truth. He secretly dug a hole for the Tang dynasty. "I'm not obligated to tell you. If you want to know, ask your allies." The Black Sky Hierarch shouted angrily, "I'm not interested in playing riddles with you. Hand over the forbidden monument. Hand over my son. I can let you live." Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, "It seems like you still don't understand the situation." A clear female voice sounded. "Hierarch Black Sky, you can't even protect yourself, and you still want to threaten Alliance Leader Lu? The Black Sky Palace will be your burial ground." Along with this voice, the Shangqing School's headmaster, Chen Rong, and the leaders of other sects arrived and gathered at the Black Sky Palace. Even though the Black Sky sect leader was not a cultivator, his martial arts intuition was exceptionally powerful. Before Chen Rong had even spoken, he had already sensed the approach of this group of immoral sect experts. However, he was confident in his strength and was a level higher than everyone present, so he did not pay much attention to it. A little girl who's still wet behind the ears. Do you really think that you can defeat me with a group of ants?" The Black Sky Hierarch looked around with a cold gaze. "I'd like to have a taste of the so-called experts of the righteous path. Who's first?" Chen Rong said calmly, "The Black Sky Hierarch disregards human life and brings disaster to the world. As the main culprit, your crimes are too numerous to be recorded. Against such an evil person like you, there's no need for us righteous path cultivators to fight one-on-one. We don't care about fairness." The Black Sky Hierarch sneered. "No matter what I say, no one dares to fight me. Fine, I don't need to suffer such a loss. I'll leave if I want to. Let's see who can stop me. After I leave today, you hypocrites of the righteous path can wash your necks and wait." The Black Sky Hierarch's words caused the faces of the righteous path cultivators to change. It was obvious that this great grandmaster of the demonic path had already disregarded his face and wanted to escape. After he escaped, he would definitely take revenge. This group of immoral sect experts couldn't always be gathered in one place. There was no such thing as guarding against thieves for 1,000 days. After they returned to their respective homes and mothers, the Black Sky Hierarch would deal with them one by one. Chen Rong's expression was still calm. He said, "No, Black Sky Hierarch, you can't leave." Boom 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 boom. From the four corners of the Black Sky Palace, four purple light pillars shot up into the sky. They intersected in the air and formed a large array diagram. At each of the four corners of the array diagram, there was a suzerain-level expert guarding a purple talisman. They completely eliminated the possibility of the Black Sky Hierarch destroying the array diagram and escaping. This time, the Black Sky Hierarch's expression really changed. He could clearly sense the powerful energy surging between the four purple talismans. What a prodigal little girl. These four ancestral talismans are the treasures of your Shangqing school, right? The Black Sky Hierarch said coldly. Even if your master isn't crazy, he'll go crazy from anger because of you. Chenrong appeared to be very calm. My Shanqing school is the leader of the Immortal Sect Alliance. It's our duty to eliminate evil and defend the righteous path. These treasures of the sect are used to eliminate you, the leader of all evil. It's a good thing. Let's not talk too much. Black Sky Hierarch. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.